Okay, assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all well. I'm hoping that today the sound quality, or at least the stream quality, will be a little bit better. I'm trying to use a different laptop. I still haven't bought a new one. I'll be doing that soon, but my laptop is just becoming more and more unusable. Okay, so first things first, check the chat and see who we have. Usual crowd, right? Assalamu alaikum, Parrot Boy. You got some, it looks like you have some other characters on your keyboard there, right? Instead of the L. Oh, you got it right next time. Muhammad Hassan, Assalamu alaikum. Hi, man. Yes, salam and happy Judgment Day to you as well, inshallah. And Sora. Right. All right. Okay. So let's get this started. I hope, I've been hoping to make these short, but I'm not sure if it's going to be short, to be honest. Let's see. Let me share my screen and get the Chrome tab working. Okay. Let's get this looking a bit neater. Qur'an centric as well as يا هلا مرحبا مرحبا بك. All right, okay, so let me get this going. So hopefully don't take up too much time. So Jesus and the hour. So well, as I put in the description, this is going to be centered around that verse, which is taken to mean that Jesus, his return, alayhi salam, will be a sign for the hour. And this is something I was going to actually talk about this in a different video or something, but somebody reminded me about it. I think it was yesterday on Reddit. They asked me about it, so I thought, why not just do it in the stream. So this is the verse. It says, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ فَلَا تَمْتَرُنَّ بِهَا وَاتَّبِعُونَ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. Right, and in Sahih International, it says, and indeed Jesus will be, and just says Jesus will be, and in brackets, a sign for knowledge of the hour. So be not in doubt of it and follow me. Okay. So let's look at that, because of course, I don't accept the return of Jesus, and there will be a second coming. I don't think that's true at all. And I think the ending of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5, is pretty clear about that. So what does this verse mean? So let's go back to the beginning of the context of these verses, and let's just look through it to get the context. So from verse 57, it says, وَلَمَّا ضُرِبَ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ مَثَلًا إِذَا قَوْمُكَ مِنْهُ يَصِدُّونَ. And when the son of Maryam was presented as an example, as a method, immediately your people laughed out loud, it says in translation. Other translations say turn away, which I think is more accurate. يَصُدُّونَ, right? يَصُدُّونَ. This is like to turn away or to turn other people away from something. Just put my phone on silent. Okay, and then the next verse, وَقَالُوا أَآلِهَتُنَا خَيْرٌ أَمْ هُوَ. And they say, like in jest, are our gods better or is he? Okay, مَا ضَرَبُوهُ لَكَ إِلَّا مَثَلًا إِلَّا جَدَلًا. Yeah, مَا ضَرَبُوهُ لَكَ إِلَّا جَدَلًا. They did not present that comparison, they did not say that except for argument. Okay, they want to argue, debate, right? Jadal. Okay. بل هم قوم خصمون. But in fact, they are people prone to dispute. And this one of the things which shows you, of course, that because they're saying, are our aliha better or is he? So they're comparing him to an ilah, right? So, and of course, he was a person, right? He was a person, he wasn't an idol. So just another little indication that an ilah can be a person, right? An ilah can be a person. So when we say La ilaha illallah, okay, that includes people, right? La ilaha illallah. We have no ilah except Allah. Okay. Then it says, إن هو إلا عبد أنعمنا عليه وجعلناه مثلا لبني إسرائيل. Jesus was not in huwa, it says, it does not say his name here, was not but a servant upon whom we bestowed favor, أنعمنا عليه. And we made him an example or a methal for Bani Israel. Okay, so again, note that his name is not mentioned here. Okay, it doesn't say Isa. It doesn't say, Isa is just a methal, he's just an abd that we have. Jesus is it's not in Arabic, Jesus, his name. Okay, and also note the use of innahu. Okay, in huwa instead of innahu. Right, so it says in huwa illa abdun. In huwa illa abdun. It doesn't say innahu abdun or anything like that. Innahu illa abdun or anything like that. Okay. Anyway, but what does this verse is saying? It's just in meaning that he isn't anything more than a man. Okay, immortal servant, whom we made a methal for Bani Israel. Okay, a methal of what though? What was he a methal for? So of course he was a methal. In the methal Isa and Allah, كمثل Adam, right? But that's the methal in God's sight, right? And it's for us as well, of course, right? But the Bani Israel didn't need to be told that, did they? Bani Israel never thought that he was, the son of God or the third of three or anything like that. So that's not the methal that matters. Okay, that methal that God talks about when comparing Adam with Isa, that is put forward for the Christians, basically, right? To tell them, that he created him from Turab and said to him, be, and he was. So what method is mentioned here? Okay, that's something to think about. And then next verse says, وَلَوْ نَشَاءَ, and if we willed, لَجَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ. And if we willed, we could have made instead of you angels succeeding one another on the earth. So there's a lot of things in brackets here. Or another translation has it, and had we willed, we could have set among you angels to be viceroys in the earth. So they're translating here, viceroys comes from Khalifa, right? Khalifa. So they're taking yakhlufun and to be like viceroys, all right? And the previous translation saying succeeding each other, because of course a Khalifa, we say that the Khalifa after the Prophet was Abu Bakr, he became the Khalifa, whether that was right or wrong, but he became the Khalifa, right? Khalifa is somebody who comes after, right? Yakhluf. So that's what they're going with here. But what is the link? What is the link? Okay, that why is this being said about Isa? In huwa illa abdun an'amna alayhi wa ja'alnahu mathalan li bani Israel. The next verse says, وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ. And if we willed, we could have made instead among you angels succeeding on the earth, or angels set among you angels to be viceroys on the earth, which would be strange, because if the human being is supposed to be the viceroy, and then God says, had we willed, we could have put in angels to be the viceroys, to replace us, to be instead of us. Okay, but what has that got to do with the previous verse of Isa alayhi salam? So, let's think about it this way. So what is this method? What is this link between this verse and the previous verse? Well, Jesus, of course, was aided with the Ruh al-Qudus, right? And he was, and through that, he was able to perform a lot of wonders and miracles, okay? But he was just one person. Now, Ruh al-Qudus, of course, for the most part, it does seem to be Jibreel, okay? It does seem to be Jibreel. But if you don't accept that, it's definitely an angelic presence. It's sort of a power that comes through the angels or through some form of angelic presence, all right? So there's the link between that, okay? You have that link that you're talking about angels, okay? He was a methal for Bani Israel because of all the wonders that he did. Isa alayhi salam, he raised the dead, bi'idhnillah, he did this, bi'idhnillah. And this all came, through the Ruh al-Qudus, وَيَدْنَاهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ, okay? يُكَلِّمُ النَّاسِ فِي الْمَهْدِ وَكَهْنَا, he spoke in the cradle, etc. This came through the ta'yeed of Ruh al-Qudus. So he had, Isa alayhi salam definitely had a lot of angelic presence around him. Okay, so that's I think that's what this link is. But let's continue. Basically says this verse, what I think it's saying is that had God willed, he could have set among us angels on earth who moved around from one of us to the other and allowing other wonders to happen. And in that way, I'm taking the word yakhlufun to mean to be moving in succession between things. Okay, so the word yakhlufun doesn't have to be like a viceroy or a successor. It can be something which is repeated, to repeatedly go somewhere. Okay, so I'm using yakhlufun in that kind of sense. And here are some examples just from normal Arabic. So this is an Arabic statement. Okay, فأقام بعد ذلك دهرا يختلف إلى المسجد مكفوفا يقاد. Okay, so he spent after that a long time going to the mosque blind and having to be led. Okay, when you say يختلف إلى something, يختلف إلى, it means you keep on going to that thing. يختلف إلى فلان, for example. He keeps on going to fulan, he keeps on visiting him. Okay, فقام بعد ذلك دهرا يختلف للمسجد. So after that he spent a long time. أقام, okay, spent a long time. بعد ذلك دهرا is the long time. يختلف إلى المسجد, visiting the mosque basically. Okay, يختلف إلى المسجد means visiting mosque, and مكفوفا means blind. It's another way of saying blind. يقاد, being led. Okay, that's that kind of sense you can understand يخلفون. Okay, visiting, right? And here again it says كنت أختلف إلى الشام في تجارة. Okay, I used to frequent الشام, Greater Syria, for trade, in my trade. Okay, in trading. Okay, I used to visit or frequent or keep going to Asham, right? So he's not in Asham, he doesn't live in Asham, he keeps on going there and visiting. Okay, so that's how I'm taking this verse to mean. وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ. Okay, had we willed, we could have made set among you on the earth, okay, angels who would frequent you, who would visit you. Okay, and in the same way, sort of like what was happening to Isa. So that's how I would render this. Okay, and had we willed, we could have set among you angels on the earth frequenting you. Okay, وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ. Okay, perfectly fine in Arabic there. I.e. frequenting you in a similar way to how Ruh al-Qudus used to frequent Jesus alayhi salam. Okay, then after that comes the main verse, which is being taken as evidence that for the second coming. It says وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ فَلَا تَمْتَرُنَّ بِهَا وَاتَّبِعُونَ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. And indeed, and here are the various translations, okay? And indeed, Jesus will be a sign for the knowledge of the hour, so be not in doubt of it and follow me. This is a straight path, okay? And in this, of course, translation, the Arabic doesn't have Jesus. All it says, وَإِنَّهُ, and indeed, he is or it is, okay? Will be a sign. إِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ. Ilmun can be read as a alam, okay, as a sign, ilm. In the end, they come from, to know something, to have knowledge of something is like to put actually an alam on it, right? To like put a flag on it, to identify. When you identify something, you gain knowledge. Okay, so that's the link between sort of a alam or a sign and ilm. Okay, and here it's saying he is a portent. Okay, a sign. Okay, so instead of knowledge, you've got a sign of the hour. So have no doubt about it and follow me. Next few ones, and they've got Jesus in brackets, and shall be a sign for the coming of the hour. Okay, therefore have no doubt, etc. And again here now we have it, right? Because you must remember, and this is something maybe to remember when you're reading translations. In Arabic there is no we don't have a neutral pronoun. There's no it in Arabic. So when you read something in English which says it, in Arabic it's either he or she. Okay, so here they've put it as it. It is knowledge of the hour. Have no doubt concerning it. Okay, and follow. So it is knowledge of the hour here. And here we have, and lo, very, there is knowledge of the hour. Okay, in this. So doubt not about it. Okay, we have, and most surely it is knowledge of the hour. Therefore have no doubt about it and follow me. And verily he, here they've put he, i.e. Jesus, is a portent, a sign, instead of knowledge, sign of the hour, so be not in doubt about it. And indeed it surely is a knowledge of the hour. So here they've got it and not he, and they've got knowledge instead of sign or portent. Okay. So what from these, you could, I mean, I can see this of course in Arabic, but if you're looking at the translations in English, right, you could say, okay, you could combine it in a way which none of them seem to have combined, which is to say that it or that, okay, instead of he, and also use sign or portent instead of knowledge. Okay, so then the verse becomes, and truly it or that is a sign, sign or portent of the hour, so be not in doubt about it. Okay, and then it becomes immediately clear what the verse is talking about. Okay, what is this portent? What is a sign? It's of course what's mentioned in the previous verse. Okay, you shouldn't be jumping 2 verses before to say what this is. Okay, it's just what's in the previous verse, which is وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا مِنكُم مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ. And had we willed, we could have set among you angels on the earth, يَخْلُفُونَ, who would frequent you. So this relates a bit to, so that's basically what I want to get across, that this verse, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, okay, it's a sign for the hour, is that that towards, before the final hour, one of the signs is that there would be angels who would frequent among mankind. Okay, this relates to what I mentioned in my God's Endgame video. That in the end humanity is headed towards righteousness, right? And right? That mankind will not be a failed creation. Okay, we are headed towards taqwa, towards righteousness, towards faith, altogether. And that period of humanity being like that will be much longer than the period where we won't be. Okay. When Allah said, إِنِّي جَعْلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, I'm going to make a khalifa on the earth, and the angels objected, are you going to make somebody who kills and does fasad on the earth? He says, I know what you don't know. Okay, so yes, that will happen. Okay, but I know what else will happen. Okay, and the other thing which God knows should be more than, it should more than make up for what will happen of the fasad, of the spilling of blood, of the corruption, etc. So once the majority are like that, visitations or frequentations from the angels, will not be an issue, all right? Because the point is that why aren't angels sent down? Why don't people see? Right? That affair would be settled. Okay, there would be take away part of the test for faith and righteousness. But when all of humanity are like that, or the majority are, okay, then there will be some people who will be frequented by the angels. So this is one way of looking at this verse. In either way, I don't think it's right to take that verse and then take it back and say it's referring to 2 verses before. When you have this verse, which is just, it should be referring to the verse right before. Okay. Now, the other way to look at this verse is that it is referring to the Qur'an itself. Okay, because the phrase وَإِنَّهُ, okay, is used very often for the Qur'an, even in the same surah. So the verse, I should go back to it. I should have actually put it there. This verse, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ فَلَا تَمْتَرُنَّ بِهَا وَاتَّبِعُونَ. Okay, and truly it is ilm or sign or knowledge for the hour. Okay, to help you for the hour. So do not doubt in it and follow me. Okay, follow it. Okay, وَاتَّبِعُونَ, because don't forget in the Arabic, okay, you have the noon is there, and the part where in the English they put and follow me, okay, is that the kasra on the noon, right? The وَاتَّبِعُونَ should be وَاتَّبِعُونِي and follow me, tabi'uni, right? But it just says وَاتَّبِعُونَ, okay. فَلَا تَمْتَرُونَ وَاتَّبِعُونَ. Okay, it could be just وَاتَّبِعُونَ, just follow. Follow what? Follow the Qur'an, which is knowledge, which will help you for the sa'a. Okay, and that is of course Sirat Mustaqim, and the Sirat Mustaqim is of course laid out in the Qur'an. Okay, نهدنا الصراط المستقيم, right? Is the prayer in Surah Al-Fatiha, and it's the Sirat Mustaqim is basically outlaid throughout the Qur'an. Okay, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, and truly this, it or the Quran is knowledge for the hour. So don't doubt in it and follow. Okay, and follow. هذا صراط مستقيم. In it is صراط مستقيم. But the point is that this phrase وَإِنَّهُ, okay, is, let's go to it. It's something which is used recurringly for the Quran itself. So even in the same surah, just if you go a few, like 20 verses back in verse 44, it says, وَإِنَّهُ لَذِكْرٌ لَكَ وَلِقَوْمِكَ وَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ. Okay, and truly it is a dhikr, a reminder for you and for your people, for your Muhammad and for your people. وَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ, and you'll be questioned. وَإِنَّهُ, it's talking about the Quran. Okay, if you look at go to the verse itself and look at the verse before, it's talking about the Quran. And many verses have this. وَإِنَّهُ لَتَذْكِرَةٌ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and truly the Quran is a tazkirah, is a reminder for the muttaqeen. Okay, and here again, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِالذِّكْرِ لَمَّا جَاءَهُم, truly those who have kafaru with the dhikr when it came to them. وَإِنَّهُ لَكِتَابٌ عَزِيزٌ, وَإِنَّهُ, right? وَإِنَّهُ لَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and again here وَإِنَّهُ, okay, it's talking about the Quran. If you go to the verse, because I didn't want to put all the context for all of these verses, but you go to these verses, okay, you'll see that it's talking about the Quran. وَإِنَّهُ لَهُدًى هُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, it is a mercy, it is a guidance and mercy for the mu'mineen. And here وَإِنَّهُ لَتَنزِيلُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, and it is the tanzil, the sending down, the revelation of رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, and here وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ, and it is truly in the former scriptures. إِنَّهُ لَفِي زُبُرِ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Okay, وَإِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ, and truly it is a Quran Kareem, a noble Quran. So that verse that's the two ways that I see that verse, which is used as one of the strongest proofs for the return of Isa alayhi salam by those who believe in that. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to show. All right, let's have a look and see what we have in the chat. Hopefully this time, if we get anybody comes on the stream, it will be a lot smoother. Like I said, I'm using a different laptop. One thing I never actually tried with the other one is when we had people on, I should have actually started asking people to switch off their cameras. Maybe that was making the stream much more choppy. Anyway, let me have a look. Don't know what that means. Tea today. What is that? Chilling with scripture. I like the username. Salam, chilling with scripture. Perfect dawah. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are well. Good to have you here. And we have Qur'an centric. Hala. Okay, we haven't had any more comments since I saw your hala, Qur'an centric. Okay. So, anybody would like to come on, let me know. If nobody comes on in the next maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then I will end it earlier than usual. Yes, Assalamu alaikum, Adriana. Good to see you on again. Hope you're well. Out shopping, I wonder, while listening, or at home today. What I want to actually put out. I was trying to put out this video today. It was just going to be. I was going to take a clip from Sheikh Khalid Abul Fadl, right? Let me just get this brother on. Rashid, Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to bring you on, and then I can mention what I wanted to mention as well, if it works. Assalamu alaikum, Rashid. Oh, and perfect. Wa
alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam. I'll get to your perfect dawah afterwards, okay? Yeah, before I just mentioned, Rashid, I just wanted to, I'll put it out maybe tomorrow, but my main laptop was really giving me a lot of trouble today. I wanted to put out a video of Sheikh Khalid Abul Fadl, who was speaking about Hassan Farhan al-Maliki, who was mentioning him, and he mentioned him in his khutbah yesterday. Somebody on Twitter let me know about that, and I thought, he had a lot of amazing things to say. So I'm going to cut out that part from his khutbah and put it on as a video, hopefully tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah,
How are you doing, Rashid? How's everything?
I'm fine, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I found the subject matter very engaging. Thank you for bringing that to light, because I have also heard a lot of people who have like a belief about the return of Isa, and this seems to be well engraved in within the psyche of many Muslims. Unfortunately, that a lot of Muslims believe that Isa would come, basically coming after the Dajjal and all that, or coming before the Dajjal and all that, and going against that belief. For example, it's it takes guts, because usually when you mention it, people are like, it seems like it is something as let's say as well engraved within the Islamic literature as let's say Aqidah, for example. It's like it's become like a matter of Aqidah at this point, that someone could just call you like a kafir just because you don't subscribe to the idea that Isa ibn Maryam is going to return.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I had a brother once whom I was discussing with regarding this issue, and I happened to mention that, and basically, so that was what they said, that because this is something that is core. It's like it's as if it's a core belief of of Islam, and when you reject it, they're saying that you're out of the fold of Islam, because it is something that all scholars have agreed upon, and which is not true. But
and the strange thing about it is because it's something that will never. I mean, it's something sort of in the future. Let's say it is true, okay, but it's something in the future. I mean, all the Muslims up to now who have died, they've died without without it affecting them in any way, whether they accepted it or not. Now you could say, okay, well, Judgment Day is in the future as well. No, but Judgment Day relates to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody who's died before Isa is gonna basically, what's called frog jump, leap over that time period. We're gonna leap over that time period where Isa comes, and we're gonna be in Yawm al-Qiyamah. So it has literally nothing to do with us. So how can you make one a kafir or not? It's a strange idea.
Yeah, I mean, also the thing that I found very interesting was how is the Quran so silent? Like when it comes to this issue, like yes, I recognize that people can point to this verse or whatever, or the verse in Surah An-Nisa, the one where basically Allah is rejecting the supposed crucifixion, or I mean, I don't think he's rejecting it, the crucifixion, but that's how it is interpreted. That when Allah says
وما صلبوه.
وإن من أهل الكتاب إلا ليؤمنن به قبل موته ويوم القيامة يكون عليهم شهيدا. So they use that verse, for example, to say that well, this verse is saying that he didn't die, because Allah is saying none of the people of the book will believe in him except until his death, which is a very tricky, it's kind of hard to tell because prepositions are being used within the verse, so it's kind of a bit tricky to actually say conclusively that it is referring to Jesus. So they use that verse as well as the one that you produced, this one, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمُ لِلسَّاعَةِ, and they claim that the Quran does support the idea, but it's strange because why would the Quran talk about the coming of Jesus but not mention the Dajjal, when in the Hadith always they link those two together? The Quran talks about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. It hints at the Dabbatul Arab tukallimun nas. It talks about that, hints at it, but it does not hint, not even. It doesn't seem to recognize the idea of a Dajjal, for example, and that always struck me as very, very peculiar. And so anyway, I wanted to throw my 2 cents in the.
No, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, it's something like that. If it was going to be so important to be mentioned explicitly in the Quran somewhere about it, but I mean, I think it's obvious from ending of Surah Al-Ma'idah, for me at least, that it's obvious that he's a
it's quite clear that that the Quran does not really, it doesn't seem to be aware of the idea of Jesus returning at all. I mean, both the verses that talk about the end of Jesus, they use the word tawaffa, and you know, they don't seem to indicate anything that would happen, you know, between the death and the return, or between the death and the day of judgment. They just nothing. They just they're just completely silent. So anyway, I mean, but for this verse in particular, I never really, even before, even at the time when I remember, because when you grow up within Islamic, in an Islamic household or within Islam, you grow up obviously believing, you know, these kinds of things, and then when you grow up and you begin to research them yourself, you take on another interpretation, another understanding. But obviously, so I used to also believe that Isa would come back at one point. However, this particular verse, I never actually saw it as like, even when I did believe that, particularly this one, I never really like saw it as
in that way.
at all, that this is talking about Jesus. I don't know, because it doesn't follow from the verse, because yes, you can understand that in verse 59 where it says innahu in huwa illa abdun, you know, when it's talking about abdun an'amnahu an'amna alayhi wa ja'alnahu mathalan li bani Israel, that you would yes, that is, maybe it's referencing, you know, Jesus,
referencing that.
Then after that, the direction changes. So then Allah changes the direction and says, وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَجَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ you know, مَلَائِكَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ يَخْلُفُونَ, as you also pointed out. And the verse following that seems to be connected to this one, because then it says, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمُ لِلسَّاعَةِ. The way I used to understand it was that Allah what is saying that if Allah had wanted, for example, He would have placed among us angels upon the earth who are basically, who are frequenting us, who are coming, you know, to us or succeeding us and all that. Then He says, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمُ لِلسَّاعَةِ. The way I understood that was that Allah is saying that, and that, or it would have been a sign for the hour, you know, because on the day of judgment, angels, or on the day of resurrection, angels are going to be frequenting, you know, human beings. Angels are going to be frequenting people. We see that also in the Qur'anic mythos, or the Qur'anic literature, or the way the Qur'anic message is talking about the Akhirah, angels coming in and going out visiting people, and basically all that.
So, I see what you mean. So you're saying that basically the same thing that I said, but you're saying that it's the next verse, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, it's still within this condition of وَلَوْ نَشَاءَ.
Exactly. And it's saying, it would have been. It would have been
a sign for the hour.
Exactly.
If we had willed this as well.
Exactly. Right? That's how.
And that comes to the same thing. Then it would have been a sign for the hour. It means that would have happened before the hour as well.
Right? Exactly.
So it's not happening now. لو نشاء لجعلنا منكم ملائكة في الأرض يخلفون. But the only thing is that this seems to be talking about like now, right? So if you just read this part, this verse by itself, it says ولو نشاء, and if we had willed, we would have made among you. So it's talking to those now, then, right? Among you right now, there'll be malaika, you know, يخلفون, you know, frequenting you, coming among you, all right? If we had willed it, it would have happened now, right? So that's why, because I sort of thought of that, but I said, okay, but this is talking about now. And the next verse says, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. Okay.
So you understood as that's saying that the angels being able to walk upon, to walk amongst us, that that is a sign of frequent people. That in itself is a sign of the hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I'm reading it here. That's one way. And like I said, I think also this whole verse can be easily read to mean that it's talking about the Qur'an. Okay, if you were to take it by itself, okay, وإنه لعلم للساعة فلا تمترن بها واتبعون. This seems to be talking about the Quran. If you take that وإنه, this thing وإنه, this recurring وإنه is in the Quran, usually means the Quran. Okay, one thing. And it says لعلم, okay, instead of لعلم, really it says لعلم, it has knowledge. للساعة, okay, so for the hour. So you have knowledge in the Quran, it has knowledge for the hour, you know, for your preparation for the hour. So don't doubt in it, all right? So don't doubt in it, and follow. So follow what? Follow the Quran, of course, okay? Or follow, here, of course, you have the وَاتَّبِعُونِ, follow me. But, you know, you can't just read it وَاتَّبِعُون, right? Just without reading the kasra at the end, وَاتَّبِعُون, and follow the Quran. And هذا صراط مستقيم, and of course, the Quran is all about the صراط مستقيم. So it can be read, I think maybe that's the stronger one, that this is talking about the Quran. But if you read it contextually with the other one, I think it can also be read as, yes, that the malaika yakhlufun is a sign of the hour, is a sign of the hour, that, you know, when the hour approaches, that this will happen. Okay, that there will be angels who would frequent. You know, you know, there are some, I mean, I don't know how many people believe in these kind of things, but, you know, I'm not very skeptical, too skeptical of certain things. And I remember there's this Irish woman, I forget her name, some Irish woman who talks about, you know, when you listen to it, she just doesn't sound like a fraud or anything. Talks about how her being able to see see angels, right? The angels, you know, among you know, around people. Okay, and so. If this can happen to one person or people, and, you know, you've got different treatises in Islamic history. There's, I think, Suyuti wrote a whole treatise about, you know, imkan ru'yat al-malak, right? That the possibility of being able to see the angels. You know, and there are people that have mentioned being able to see angels. You know, we believe in angels, right? I mean, that's one of the things which is mentioned in the Quran, which we don't discuss much. Okay, what does it mean to have iman in the angels? What does that mean? Okay, it seems to be an empty part of our creed, because, you know, people go into a lot of detail about iman billah, a lot of detail about iman in the Yawm al-Akhir, in the messengers, in the books. There's a lot of detail and discussion about those. What does that mean to have iman in the angels?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Just that they exist and that's it? No, I mean, it should be. There's a part of it which is connected to the faith, connected to it, which is that they are active in the world, that they are part of this world. The malaika are part of this world. Okay, they're not, you know, كل يوم هو في شأن, Allah says, and every day he is engaged in something, and, you know, the malaika are part of that. You know, ليلة القدر تتنزل الملائكة والروح فيها, right? And so the angels are part of this world, and, you know, I think they are around us. They influence things. They do, you know, influence us and influence things in different ways. I think, for example, you know, I look into the whole issue of the qira'at, for example, you know, and, you know, my conclusion about the whole qira'at and the different recitations and stuff. I mean, I believe that firmly that the Quran was only revealed in one recitation.
Which one do you think that is?
Yeah.
Famous one.
Yeah. No, I'm coming to that. So you know, just as a basis, okay, you know, this whole, you know, 7 ahruf and stuff, I think it's nonsensical. You know, for 1,400 years, people are scratching their heads. What did the Prophet mean about it? The Prophet would not have spoken this mumbo jumbo way where people have no idea what it means. Okay,
exactly.
The Quran will be sent upon 7 ahruf, and nobody knows what that means. And why 7 ahruf anyway? What benefit is there? You know, for the Arabs, they needed it. How did the Arabs need it when the whole ummah right now, you know, from Japanese to Chinese to people of, you know, very different tongues from Arabic, you know, they're perfectly fine with Hafs. It's doing everything it needs, right? So it's ridiculous. All right. So no, the Prophet taught the Quran in only one way. He recited it in only one way, and he taught it in that one way. And all of these divergences are the divergences away from that. And from my, you know, research and investigation, you know, I didn't expect this, to be honest, and I was surprised. The one which I think is closest is Hafs. It is the closest, but it's not perfect. There are some things, issues, I think, where Hafs is not right. It's not right, to be honest.
Yeah, I was that.
Yeah. So there are some issues like that. But what I came to when I found this out, and it's like, okay, I was kind of disappointed it was Hafs in a way, because I was actually not arguing, but I was telling people, look, the other Quranists especially, they were just like having very simplistic reasoning why Hafs is the correct recitation. This is just because it's a majority. It's like, but guys, it was not always a majority. It was not always a majority. It's like you're thinking that the whole Ummah has always had Hafs as the 95%. No, it hasn't. But you have to understand that the Quran has inayah from Allah, right? God is looking after it. Okay, so the fact that a lot of these things conspired together to make it sort of Hafs has basically now become so dominant. I don't think any other qira'ah will reach it. Okay, and this happened at the time for the printing press. Okay, and the first time when Quran was recorded, it was recorded in Hafs. Okay. And when in Egypt, when they made the 1924 edition, they chose Hafs. Okay, and Hafs has the least has the simplest rules for recitation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
That's true.
Another thing about it. It's very consistent. Hafs is consistent, the most consistent within itself out of all of the qira'at, and simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
But I see that the inayah of Allah is involved in that. And how does that happen? It happens with angels, right? The angels, they can inspire some people to choose this or make them and different ways. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how it happens, of course, but different things, interventions in different places. You can have that, and you could also have ibad, like because. The story of Khidr, right, is a very amazing story in Surah Al-Kahf, right, where Allah has servants who are active in this world doing things, who are not part of what we see outwardly happening, right? And so they are involved in that, and he's not the only one. Abdun min ibadina, the verse says, a servant from among our servants. So there are others like him, right, who are working sort of in the background. And some people even think that Khidr, the person there, that he was a thing, that he was an angel. It wasn't a
there's
man,
some people who say
right?
that.
Yeah, that Khidr was an angel, is not a man. So that could be an example of that. That as we get closer to Qiyamah, or as humanity moves closer to taqwa and righteousness, and as what Allah knew about the human creature, what we will become, we will become true viceroys on the earth. Okay?
Yeah.
When Allah says, "Inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa," that's going to happen. Right now, we are not a very good khalifa on the earth. Okay? But when that happens, and when the earth is inherited by the righteous, okay, and who knows, maybe beyond the earth, Allahu a'lam, it will not be such a big thing that angels would be more common. It will be more common for angels to frequent people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that time when this happens, if this happens, of course, in maybe 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, the Quran will be there, and people will read that verse and say, "Innahu li'ilmun lis-sa'a," right?
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
Then it will have its. Then that verse will have its power. Because not everything in the Quran is for us, right?
No, not necessarily.
It's not what we can't get, what isn't for us, it's for other than us, for other than our time, for other places. Who knows?
I would like to mention something on that, the qira'at issue. One thing that I always found strange, there's this story which people mention regarding the qira'at, the story of Umar bin Khattab. He is about a companion who's reciting Surah Al-Furqan and wants to seize him in the masjid, take him to the Prophet, and to basically waits until he finishes praying, grabs him, takes him to the Prophet, tells him to recite. He says, "Okay, you recite," and they both recite, and the Prophet says, "Hakadha nuzla," this is how unzila, this is how it was revealed, and this is basically that's what he says. So, and the interesting thing about that, if we really look at the story, so the Prophet had been in Makkah. We're assuming this is Medina because there was no masjid except at the time. You can't just say so. We're assuming that this is Medina. The Prophet had been in Makkah for 13 years and some years after when he came to Medina. And all that time, Umar ibn al-Khattab had never heard of the issue of Ahraf.
Yeah,
In
that's
all,
one of the criticisms, that I have of it. Exactly. Yeah, I've got a lot of notes about this issue of the qira'at. It's so nonsensical. It's unbelievable. And the reason why they say it happened because they, it was easier for different, people. Well, they're from the same tribe.
yeah.
They were both Qurashi men, right? Hisham and Umar ibn Khattab, the person in that story. They were both Qurashi men. So it's just nonsense. But exactly, that's exactly one of the things. Umar al-Khattab he found out about the ahruf from seeing somebody praying in the mosque. When he was, in Dar
Yeah,
al-Arqam,
it's
in Medina, in Mecca, right? And the Muslim community in Mecca was very small. There was only about 70. Right? It was around 70. When the people who did hijrah, the muhajirun, were around 70. There weren't that many, right? But yeah, the same thing with Ubay. Ubay, the master of the Quran reciters, he was called Sayyid al-Quran. Same thing. He doesn't know that there's ahruf
hello.
until yes, hello. Sorry, did you cut off or something?
No, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
so
think
I'm
my
just saying,
internet cut off. Yeah.
Yeah, the same issue, of course, with Ubay, right? Ubay, he's one of the earlier Muslim. He's become Muslim, and he's known as oh,
Yeah.
you're getting into your home or something, right?
What do you say?
I said you're probably getting into your home now, right? There's a lot
Yeah, I
of.
just had to open for someone. Sorry.
All right, okay, no
Yeah,
problem.
but yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, I was just saying it's the same issue with Ubay, right? The hadith of Ubay, the
Yeah.
Sayyid of the Quran, same thing, right? He only finds out about the ahruf. He's the one who's supposed to be teaching the ahruf.
Yeah,
Right? He's a master of the Quran,
exactly.
right? He's
It's
supposed to be
most of the Quran.
the great hafiz of the Quran. He's supposed to be teaching other people about ahruf and saying it's okay, there's ahruf, it's okay. He's supposed to be calming other people down.
I think the issue gets to a point of comic, like it becomes comical at at one part, because when you look at if, for example, for me personally, if a Christian, for example, had told me that the reason why there are multiple manuscripts of the Christian Bible, or if that the reason why there are multiple manuscripts of the Bible is because the Bible was revealed in different modes. So I don't think I would buy it. I would not buy that. You can clearly
it's different because it's different people narrating it.
It's
different because it's different because different people narrating it. Different people wrote the different gospels. The same thing with the ahruf. It's different people's recitations.
Yeah.
Okay, the recitation of this person, of this person, of this person, and they diverged because they diverged.
Yeah.
And and we have, don't forget, we have two from one. Okay, so they have the seven, main qur'an, but we don't have 7 qira'at, right? We have 14 because from each one you have two different.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, it's a mess. But yeah, no, Hafs. My investigating. I've got a post on it on Reddit. It was one of my first big posts on Reddit. It needs to be updated, to be honest, because there are some things. Yeah, there are some things which I need to update about it. But the same idea follows. The reasons why I think Hafs is the closest. It's not just one. It's one which I see Providence is in work now. Now that when I investigated and saw, okay, Hafs seems to be the one which would have the better claim to being a reflection of the Prophet's qira'ah.
What would you
because
say that the Warsh is Madani, that the Warsh, because it came from Medina, that it would represent more the lingua of the Quraysh? What would you say to people who would say, for example, that the Warsh is described as being the one from Medina, and the Hafs comes more from the Kufan direction?
Because it's not from Medina, and neither is the Kufan. The word Hafs is not Kufan. Okay, the Warsh one is not from Medina, because that's part of the narrative that is being given about these ahruf. That there was a qira'ah which everybody knew, and now we are just naming it after that one reciter, Warsh. Okay, so that qira'ah was all around Medina. So that was what Medina were reciting, and then because the best reciter of it was Warsh and Nafi', So we call that recitation Warsh and Nafi, but everybody else, but many people knew it. No. The qira'ah of Warsh and Nafi is the qira'ah of Warsh. It's his qira'ah. From him it spread. Okay, from him it spread. Okay, and the qira'ah of Hafs is his qira'ah. Okay, it wasn't that everybody else was reciting the same way as him. No, he got that qira'ah. Okay, you know, maybe his teacher taught others as well. All right, you know, it was Asim, right?
Yeah,
okay, Asim maybe he taught other people the same way that he taught Hafs. Okay, but in the end, okay, what he taught, what became Hafs was mainly him. Okay, so Asim was teaching a bunch of different things, and people in Kufa, you know, there's 4 of the reciters. Was it 3 of the main reciters are from Kufa? So it wasn't there was this one recitation of Kufa, and then it was named after this person. No, that's part of the narrative which is given to try to buttress the idea of the qira'at. No. It just isn't the case. No, the Kufan one, and in the end, don't forget that Kufa was the place of knowledge in the end. The place of knowledge went to Kufa. That's where the Khilafah ended up, right? Ali ibn Abi Talib was in Kufa. That's where the knowledge ended up, and that's where the people were closest to the Deen for longer. Right? They were the people who did not submit to the tyrants for longest. Right? Medina submitted. You know, Hussein had to flee it in the middle of the night. He had to flee Mecca in the middle of the night, and you know. So, you know, it's Kufa is a place which had knowledge for the longest. Yeah. Right. And that's why fiqh is Kufan, right? They say fiqh is from Kufa.
A lot of fiqh is actually Kufan. That's true.
It does come from Kufa. But no, the issue is that if you look at the qira'at and look how they come, it seems to be from my investigation, Hafs is the only one which is a one-on-one relationship. All the other qira'at seem to be mixtures. So it's the person who's created is qira'at, what they call, you know, ikhtiyar, right? They're choosing. So they're mixing different, you know, they hear from this Sahabi or, you know, this Tabi'i and this Tabi'i, and they put it all together, and that's their qira'ah, right? And that's what they do. I mean, that's recognized that a qira'ah is basically a mixture of the ahruf, they would say, right? Right? Whereas Hafs, he learned only what happened was that you know, Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami, he said in a few things that he learned only from Ali ibn Abi Talib, right? And he did not learn a single letter from anybody else. Okay. Then he taught Asim, but Asim also learned from somebody else. Okay. He learned from somebody else who learned from Ibn Mas'ud, right? So then what not Asim, Abdurrahman, he taught Asim, and Asim, he learned from Abdurrahman the qira'ah of Ali, and from Zir, he learned the qira'ah of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And then when he taught his 2 students, so you've got Shu'bah and Hafs, he said that he separated the 2 qira'at. So he said the qira'ah I taught you, or Asim, I taught you the qira'ah of Abu Abdurrahman, which I got from Ali, and to Abu Bakr, he taught the qira'ah of Zir, which came ultimately from Ibn Mas'ud. And that's why, in fact, there's evidence for it in that if you look at the 2 qira'at, from any 2 of the main reciters, so you know, Warsh, you've got Warsh and Nafi, and you've got Qalun and Nafi, but Warsh and Qalun are close together, are pretty close. They're not very dissimilar, and that's the same with any of the other 2 which come from the other reciters, except for Hafs and Shu'bah. They are so dissimilar. They are more dissimilar from each other than other qira'at are from others. Okay, so that shows that no, something was happening. You know, Asim was deliberately separating things out because their recitations are just so different. They're very different. So that's it. But of course, you know, the problem is that Hafs was you know, denigrated in hadith and stuff like this because of his pro sort of like leaning towards Shiaism, and so he was viewed. No, so I mean, it gives a very good argument for those who want to battle that silly statement that, you know, the same people who brought us the Quran are the same people who brought the Hadith. They are not.
No,
the one who brought the Quran, which most people recite, you reject his Hadiths.
Yeah, that's actually very very interesting, because they call him a kadhab, they call him a dajjal, they call him as a matruk. But when it comes to the Quran,
it's because he narrated basically narrations which were not in line with Sunni Islam. So that's what happened in the end. And then it did the whole ilm al-jarh wa ta'dil, the assessing the narrators. It became sectarian. It just became sectarian. We promote our boy. Our people who are in our club, we say that they are honest, that they did a good job, that they're great, etc. And those who are not, they're worst. Which reminds me actually of what. I made a post about it just now, because yesterday I was just so embarrassed by this show between. It came on my feed. It came on my feed. I didn't even know. I'm not subscribed, by the way, to any of them. I'm not subscribed. The thing is, it just came up as I opened. It was there, and it's live. I said, "Okay, live. What's happening?" I click on it, and my God!
Oh my goodness!
So shameful, so embarrassing. But you'll have people who will praise him, who will say he did an amazing job. He destroyed him. He did this. He did. They'll find people. Yeah, they'll say he did amazing, right? And they will say that, right? And the same thing was happening before when you had narrators and thing. It's our group, because it's just sectarianism. He's part of our club. Okay, he's honest. He's the greatest scholar. He is this. He is that, and it's all nonsense. And whereas somebody else, okay, Hafs, you're not part of our club, not part of our Sunni club. You're a liar. You're this, you're kadhab, you're matruk, you're this, you're that. Okay, because he used to be, friends with Ja'far al-Sadiq, right, the Shia Imam, and he used to visit him. And that's another way also, which I think that Hafs's qira is stronger, because he used to frequent Ja'far al-Sadiq, and Ja'far al-Sadiq has a claim to having the Mus'haf of Ali, right? And of course, he has another. So he was able to see his qira'ah from both angles, from Asim and from Ja'far al-Sadiq. And of course, if you're going to take the qira'ah of anybody from the Sahaba, it would have to be Ali ibn Abi Talib, right? Who grew up in the Prophet's house, and who wrote more of the Quran than anybody else. He was the number one scribe for the Prophet. You have so many. One of the things I want to start on this channel is translations of some of the inscriptions which are around Medina in the mountains. So many from Ali, right? But he was the number one scribe of the Prophet. He wrote more of the Quran than anybody else. And of course, he learned more of the Quran. He learned the whole Quran directly from the Prophet in his own home, right? He was raised from it. And if anybody spoke like the Prophet, closest, it would be Ali ibn Abi Talib from the Sahaba. So he was. So that's why I think that the closest qira'ah is Hafs. But again, there are some things in it which I think are not. But anyway, I don't know how did we get into like this? Yeah. All right. So, supposed to be talking about the Isa, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that
coming
on a topic, and then it leads you into other discussions and everything. But I do like the topic. It's not for those who are listening. It's not because the topic is not interesting or anything. It is very interesting. With the Isa and the hour. It's
that's how we got into it. Talking about the angels, right? And the angels being active in the world. And then I mentioned that it was. I think there's the hand of the angels in providence and allowing Hafs to be such the most widespread qira'ah, because I think it is the closest to the Prophet's qira'ah. All right.
But
okay.
How do you think the issue of sorry, if you have to cut off, that's fine.
Just because I've had the perfect dawah waiting, so I just want to let him get in and speak a bit as well. But what do you want to say quickly? Go ahead.
No, just wanted to ask, I don't know if this is going to take a long time. How do you think that this tradition actually entered Islam? I have my own take on it, but I wanted to hear your take on how did this tradition, for example, be so engraved? Do you think it came because of converts? Do you think it came because we were trying to look resemble, or what do you think?
The idea of Isa coming back It has
Yeah.
to, it has to do with the early Umayyad period, okay?
Yeah.
The
Because it's
link
very
of,
early. It's very
yeah,
early historically.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
very,
yeah.
very early, this belief. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it has to do with that. It has to do with, you know, Muawiyah and his, you know, he was almost a Christian, Muawiyah. You know, you see his coins with the cross, wearing the cross. He used to wear the cross, and you know, of course, Yazid, his mother was a Christian woman, and you know, so there was this push. You know, there's this alliance which is mentioned in the Quran between the Munafiqun and the Ahl al-Kitab, right? And the alliance between the leaders of Quraysh, okay, and Ahl al-Kitab, because they were in alliance, okay. So that alliance kept going, and then, you know, they allowed, you know, even, you know, during the Umayyad time, they allowed a lot of narrations to be, you know, the main mufti for the Ummah was Ka'b al-Ahbar, pretty much for a while, right? He
Yeah,
was like
Huraira used to go to him and
yeah, he
listen
used
a
to be
lot
like
of
the
the
thing.
hadith. Many of the
Yeah,
hadith
so there's that,
from
and
Ka'b.
then there's also that there are some of the hadith of, there's something which Adnan Ibrahim has mentioned. I haven't been able to look into it or find exactly where, but he was mentioning that some of these the hadith of the return of Isa, they are exactly the same as some Christian apocryphal writings. So it's the same. Okay, so if you read the thing, it's
That's
just
true.
translations,
Yeah,
not the things which are in the Bible now or things, but there are some other
that's true.
writings,
That's true,
right,
actually. Yeah.
which are the same basically. So they got translated again and entered into Islam, and
No,
you
no,
know, they,
it's true. He's correct on the fact, on the idea that they're actually very, they're very similar, not just in details, but also in wording. He's actually
yeah,
correct
the
on
wording
that, because I have looked at it myself, even
yeah.
looking at the Old Testament that seems to talk about the Messianic periods. Yeah, they seem to follow a very similar pattern. Even words are very, very similar. You know, in
So
those
then
stories. Yeah.
they got attributed to become a hadith, and you know,
So
these are the things which people
yes,
like. These are the people like this kind of stuff, and it also makes it's something which tyrants would like. They like you to think, okay, you know, we don't need to worry in the future. You know, somebody's going to come to make things right. We don't need to remove injustice now or oppression now. Okay, it's part of the jibr,
yeah.
right? In the future, it's going to happen. Okay, so you guys just sit and wait for Isa to come. You know, he'll sort us out. Us tyrants, it's Isa who will sort things out, not you. Anyway, that's how I think about it. Anyway, all right. Thanks a lot,
Yeah. Okay.
Rashid. Jazakallah khair for coming on.
Yes, thank you very much.
Try and get the perfect dawah on. Assalamu alaikum.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, let me just quickly have a look at the chat. I don't think there's anything for me in the chat. So, Assalamu alaikum, perfect dawah. Just bring you on. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, my brother?
All good. Alhamdulillah.
Very good. Yeah, just actually, I was going to start my stream 10 minutes ago, but I was waiting for you.
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
All right. No problem. Don't worry about it. I can start it after this. About the return of Jesus, peace be upon him. I also have heard a lot of bizarre stories that he comes and kills the swine and so on. And definitely, I don't believe that anybody will come, because as I said, I even don't believe that the Mahdi will come. I just believe that these are promises from God, that one day there is a way out of this jungle we are living, this problem that we are facing. But it is not God who is going to fix everything for us. Otherwise, he would have done it thousands of years ago. So he sent us the guidance, which is the final message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Qur'an. He sent us the guidance, and it is we who must complete the mission. So it's I can say it's like maybe I can compare it like this to when you buy a bed from IKEA. IKEA sends you the material and the map. It is you who must put it together. Okay, they don't do everything for you, you know. So what I'm just going to say about this is that as I said, if for example the concept I have studied before, maybe the concept of Mahdi as well. That I give this example that, for example, today's Syrian people, they are bombed by this Assad, they get killed, and then in about 20, 30 years from now, let's say they have they rebuild their country, they have democracy, and everything is fine, then somebody fall from the sky and say, I have come to save you. People will get angry, say that why you didn't come that time. We needed you most that time, not now. And I see that the development of humanity is towards better times, not worse time. So if God wanted to send somebody, then he would have sent it during Second World War, where so many people were suffering so much. And yes, I was going to ask about that verse a little bit directly, about the verse, the women who have not gotten their menstruation. I don't remember the number. So the verse doesn't, you said that it doesn't talk about age. Am I right, brother?
Yes, that's right. And just to let people know, in the he's mentioned about a verse that we were talking privately on Telegram.
Yes.
And he was asking me about the verse which is used as evidence that that you can marry little girls, children. And yes, that verse does not mention age there at all.
At all, not even mention girls.
No. It says Nisa, right? It says
yes, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, I sent you the picture from the translation. Many of these translations, they say girl or age, hasn't reached the age of menstruation and so on. So this is very unfortunate. And there is another thing is that, because you said about this different Qur'an. This chapter 4 verse 34, okay, about this zarab, the strike. I have read that there are different in many different verses of Quran, it has been used with different meanings, okay, and one of them is also traveling. So some says that this is leave her. Yeah, the third option is to leave her. And but somebody was saying that no, this is not correct, because those others, it has been used, I don't remember, in this chapter 4 verse 34, there is an extra thing there that it is different with those other verses. Okay, let me maybe, because you know Arabic very well, okay, let me ask you right away if it is possible. Strike.
Yeah, go ahead.
The verse, for example, the verse 43:5. Could you please check that 43:5, the Arabic?
Okay, hold on. 43.
5.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, 43:5 says, أفنضرب عنكم الذكر صفحا إن كنتم قوما مسرفين.
Okay, zarab here is ignore, yeah?
Not exactly ignore. It's sort of, shall we, I don't like, take it away from you? Shall we take the zikr away from you just because you are?
So zarab is what means here? Zarab exactly.
It means sort of to take
away.
Yeah, sort of to take away.
Okay.
Or shall we?
All right.
Shall we? Ignore.
Yeah. Ignore. Yes, exactly. Kind of ignore.
No, not a kind of way. I mean, shall we sort of like the whole sense of the verse is like, shall we take away the Quran and sort of just ignore you because you are musrifin? Okay, it doesn't mean ignore though here. It means shall we shall we strike it out from you? You know how, for example,
but that doesn't mean
if you have a register. Just hold on. If you have like a register of a list of names, okay, on the register, okay, and then you say somebody, shall I strike off your name?
Okay.
Or take off your name, okay. So it's like, shall we take off the Quran from you? Shall we take away the dhikr from you? Shall we just remove it just because you are musrifin, because you are disobedient and stuff? Does that mean we should not? We should take away the dhikr which we brought to you? No, of course not. Okay, we're not going to take it. We sent down the dhikr. Okay, just because you were our musrifin, we're not going to take it back. Okay, it's up to you now what you do with the dhikr.
So zarab here doesn't mean beat you. And how about chapter 4, verse 101?
Hold on, chapter 4, 101.
Verse 101.
Sorry, maybe I should be sharing this screen, but I'm just checking them out on the website. Yeah. وإذا ضربتم في الأرض, it means if you travel,
exactly.
Yeah, but so it now, means it comes from like march, right? You know, when you go on, when you travel on a road, what are you doing? You're striking the earth with your feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it does come from meaning to strike your feet on the earth. When you're constantly striking your feet on the earth, what are you doing? You're walking. Okay. You're traveling on the earth. Right. Exactly. Striking your feet on the earth, you're marching, you're stamping, you're walking, basically, right? So that's what it means. ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا من الصلاة, right? That there's no blame on you if you shorten the salah if you're traveling. But it doesn't have to be, if you're traveling on a plane, okay, it means travel as well.
Exactly. So now the difference between zarab in these two verses that I said and verse 434, what is there any difference between the zarab here and there in chapter 4 verse 34? Can you please check it?
Yeah, I mean in chapter 4 verse 34, I mean, what kind of difference do you mean?
They translate it as beating your wife, okay? There, the zarab there is beating your wife. Is there any difference? Because I have said it, and is it the same zarab, exactly the same?
No, it's not exactly. Here it says وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, right? So it's and strike them. So the hun is part of it, right? The hun, it says them, right? Okay. So it is part of it. It's like the anything else. I mean, the thing about it, I mean, I've mentioned before that it doesn't mean, it's not that I believe. I mean, it just does mean darab, right? It doesn't mean strike. It doesn't mean hit. That's what it means. If God wanted something else, then it's one of the worst, the poorest word choice you could ever have, right? Because there is no doubt that this means hit them. It just does. Okay, it is pretty clear, to be honest. I don't think this is the thing we see when we're talking about sort of sifting through translations, right? Trying to find, okay, what does this? Instead, you should always try to understand the verse. Generally, these things are not, the translations are not that bad. Okay, here it does actually mean that. Okay, it's just how are you going to understand the whole verse? What is it? What's it going to mean? Okay, but it does mean that. I mean, what's his name? That,
but what I meant is that. Sorry, what I meant is that why there in those chapters, others chapters, zarab means travel or ignore, but exactly here is because it is them, so it could be leave them.
No, it definitely doesn't mean leave them. It definitely doesn't mean leave them. I mean, it's like, look, it's like, for example, asking, okay, can you explain exactly why, for example, when somebody says, I will strike you from the record, okay, and another person says, I will strike you, okay, or he struck her, all right? The difference is clear. I mean, anybody who knows the English language will know what this means and what that means. I'll strike you from the record doesn't mean I'm going to hit you, but he struck her, or strike him on his face, right? That does mean hit, right? It's not sort of complicated difference.
Okay. I
mean, the way just to put this out, I mean, this is one of the things, to be honest, I've promised a lot of times that I would one day make a long, because I this is to put it out there, this is one of the only verses in the Quran which ever gave me trouble. Okay. Because firstly, I'm not, and one of the things I'm thankful for is I've never try to sort of just reinterpret and say, no, it doesn't mean what it means. No, it clearly means what it means.
Okay.
If you try to play these kind of sort of games of the Quran when you know, like me, I definitely know. Okay, you might not know, somebody else might. I definitely know that this means hit them. It does, just does. Okay, there's just zero doubt. All right. If in my youth when this troubled me, so that I tried to play around with it, I said no, it means this, or convince myself it means something else. That's corrupting my own heart. Okay, that's taking away from my ability to see clearly. That's like blinding yourself. Okay, it's like jabbing a finger in your eye. All right, so you can see something, see the world differently than the way you want it. No, it means it. Okay, the way I always advise people: look, if you don't understand something, you don't have to act on it. First of all, right? God is not telling you must act on. He's not expecting you to act on something you don't understand, and you can't just say, this looks wrong, or Allah, this looks wrong. Okay, and I don't understand it, and you just leave it. Okay, leave it until one day you might understand it. Okay, if you don't get it, you don't get it, right? You don't have to have everything sort of like tied up for you in a nice bow. Okay. But like I said, it's one of the verses, the only verse probably in the Quran which ever troubled me for a long period of time. But I was, maybe just my nature, right? I was relaxed about it. I just said, okay, I don't get it, and don't expect to get it. If you're a young person of 16 years old, don't expect you're going to get why God is saying وَضَرِبُوهُنَّ here, right? Okay. You're not going to get it. But just to give some solace, because I do want to go into, I used to do at least a long video or a series of videos where I explain what I think what this verse is saying, and why I see it now as one of the, even with this idea that it means hit them, why I see it as one of the most amazing verses in the Quran. Okay. And that happens with most of the verses of the Quran. The longer you spend with it, the more it seems amazing. It's not because it's more amazing than other verses, okay? But the more you understand of the wisdom of a single verse, the greater it seems in your eyes. All right, even more than other verses. So this now seems like one of the most amazing verses in the Quran to me, even with understanding it as being وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. Okay, because I sort of put some thought into it, and also I didn't mess around with it. I just kept it on the shelf, sort of, and eventually I sort of got it. But to give what I usually tell people when they want my understanding of this is just take the beginning of the verse, okay, and that beginning is what the rest of it is dependent upon, okay, and the beginning part of it is no longer acceptable for sort of the modern age, right? It says in the beginning what? الرجال قوامون على النساء, right? That the men are the maintainers or the protectors, the qawwamuna, the upkeepers, okay, of women, upon women, okay. Bima, by what? Bima faddala Allahu ba'dahum ala ba'd, by what God has given some above others, okay. Wa bima anfaqu bi amwalihim, so two things, and by what they spend of their wealth. Because traditionally, it's men who spent on the women of their wealth.
Yes, right? Definitely. They were strong.
Yeah, exactly. But this is not the case anymore. Okay, the rest of the verse is contingent upon that. It's not giving you how it should be. It's saying just how it is. That was the truth back then for most of humanity. Even for most of humanity now, it still is the case. Okay, that is generally the case. Okay, men are generally the leaders, the ones who are in the upkeepers, the ones in authority, sort of that kind of idea. Okay, it's the traditional gender roles. In the modern world, it isn't like that. In the modern world, we have it that the ideal that's set out that people want to achieve is الرجال والنساء بعضهم قوامون على بعض, right? They are maintainers of each other, right? And they spend on each other, okay? And if that is the case now, then the rest of the verse does not apply, okay? Because the rest of the verse is saying what? It's in the الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا بأموالهم. Then it says فالصالحات. So because of this, I mean, because of this situation, this is how the righteous women should be, okay? And then it goes on to say this is what the disciplinary procedure is, okay? But if the beginning part of the verse no longer applies to the society or to the situation that you're in, or to to the marriage you're involved in, then the rest of the verse doesn't apply either. So that's how I usually explain it to people until, inshallah, one day, if I get the time and thing, I want to elaborate about why is the verse this way anyway. There is a huge amount of wisdom in it.
I would like, of course, to say my opinion, and that's
yeah, go ahead.
Because chapter 3 verse 7 says that these type of verses are unspecific verses because they have different interpretation, and the true interpretation of them is known only by Allah and those firm in knowledge. So those whose heart is corrupted, they follow an interpretation suitable for them, and they say we follow it. So what I get from that verse is that if you don't understand the true meaning of such a verses, then you better not follow it, because you might commit some crime that you will be responsible in Qiyamah, because you will not understand the true meaning of such a verses. And I believe myself that because men have always been beating their wives, even in 21st century they do that. 3 months or 4 months during lockdown in Mexico, nearly 1,000 women were killed in domestic violence. Okay, so this has been done, and people didn't need God's instruction. Is like that. Maybe I can give you the example that if God sent a messenger today and said that, believers, do when the light get green, then you can drive. So it would be some kind of a crazy demand or command, because we already know that when it's green we have to pass it. So people were usually, when they were angry with their wives, they would beat their wives right away. So we didn't need God to tell us that beat them when they do that, because this was it didn't make sense that God comes and teach us something that we are already doing. So what the two first steps already shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to seize the problem, the domestic problem. Because as a husband, I know that if I get angry with my wife and I just try to talk to her, advise her, yes, and then if it doesn't work, then I separate bed with her, for example, let's say like that. Tomorrow, my anger, everything goes down, and start to think, and things might change. So already these two steps is to seize the tension, and then the next verse says that chapter 4:35 says that, and if you fear dissension between the two, send an arbitrator from his people and an arbitrator from her people, if they both desire reconciliation. So it means that they have been separated, already. So somebody from both families. So this gives me more the meaning of that. Leave her, okay, and if her family and his family fear that they separate, then they have to go and then bring them back together. So this is my take and my understanding, because it is it was something that people were doing it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried to seize the situation. He didn't want that, because beating your wife, that it is weaker than you, is oppression, and goes against the precise verses of Quran, that we have to be fair, we have to be not oppressive. So this is this is my belief and my understanding, because because as I said, the next verse itself, and there are chapter 33 verse 28, 29, 30, 31. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about Prophet Muhammad, how treat his wives, and if they disobey and so on, even separate. There is no a single word about beating his wife, Prophet Muhammad. And chapter 66 verse 1 to 5, again talking about Prophet Muhammad and his wives. And there is no a single word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to his own prophet to beat your wives. So these are things that and then even chapter 65 verse 6, okay, it says that let the woman who are undergoing a waiting period, okay, waiting period of talaq, yeah, live in the same manner as you live yourself. So this is a wife that I have, divorced, and I hate her. I don't want to see her at all because I have divorced her. So stay.
Not every divorce has to be hate, huh?
No, but it is usually it's like this. I'm just saying that. Imagine that I have, I have been fighting with her. I'm divorcing her. I don't like her at all. I don't want to see her. Live in the same manner as you live yourself, in accordance with your means, and do not harass them with the view to making their lives a misery. So against them as well, misery. And if they happen to be with child, spend freely on them until they deliver their burden. So it's continuing. But imagine that a God which is, of course, there are other verses that talk about love between man and husband. So a God definitely knows that beating your wife doesn't change the situation, doesn't make you love each other. It worsens the situation as well. So when he asked me to, to be so kind, so mercy, so generous to my wife that I have divorced, and I don't want to see her. So I'm sure that he would never allow me to beat, maybe I'm a drug user, maybe I'm an alcoholic, maybe I'm a,
Look, I understand that, believe me, I do understand. That verse is very problematic for a lot of people, and I understand, how people make it. And I think that's the best way, probably. The best way is when you, if you're not like me, I mean, I'm happy to just leave something which I don't understand without, it doesn't nag me so much. I suppose it doesn't nag me so much. So for me, that verse. I'm just saying that for me, that verse, I could never understand it the way you did that. It doesn't mean hit. It doesn't mean it. Just for me, it's just absolutely clear. So it was just leave it. Okay, I don't understand why. Why would God say that? I don't understand. So I'll leave it. Okay, it's not a big issue. So I know that this is a controversial thing. Inshallah, hopefully one day I will try to make the case of why I think this verse, is as it is. It's not a mistake. It's not something, because to say that verse there is not saying hit would basically be saying that this is one of the word God has not been able to communicate properly, because and you could use so many other words which nobody would ever understand as hit. Arabic is such a rich language. You have, like, for a camel, they have 1,700 words or something. They have this, there's this proverb where they say every word in Arabic, it means three things: either itself, its opposite, or camel, right? It's like a joke, because there's so many words for camel, so many words for lion, for this, for that. It's a very rich language. To put in that verse, the word which every child would know, it means hit. It'll be very bad language if that's not what I meant. But look, because I don't want to make this into an argument, but I know I'm glad that you've given your view on it, and again, it's something which I would probably lean to if it weren't for the fact that I don't sort of like accept something until I
understand. I understand.
I know it's controversial and stuff, but hopefully one day I will put out a long video series where I can actually try to make the case for it.
Inshallah. I just want to say that certain words is not just to translate. Like if you an English, or I don't know, maybe even English, not English, American comes out from a basket game and say that the basket game was hot. You cannot translate it to many other languages, okay? Because hot means the temperature, but for them it means beautiful, great. The basket, yes. So you cannot translate it. You have to interpret it to another language, okay? So like chapter 5 verse 38, they translate this qatul yad, for the thieves, they translate it everywhere, chopping hands. But when it comes to chapter 12 verse 31, okay, the same word is used there as well. They translate it as cut hands, because it doesn't make sense that those women, they chop their own hands. But it is the same word that has been used in chapter 5:38, okay?
Yeah.
So how come here is chopping thieves' hands, but there those women, they cut their hands? Because, and in reality, that true interpretation is that they stop the action. So stop the action of the thieves. Those women, they stopped the action they were doing, and they, if they even cut their hands, they wouldn't be so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would talk about it, they would scream, but they were so passionate, so romantic, that they said, good God, this cannot be a human, this must be a noble angel, So there is nothing in that verse about that they cut their hands, they would scream.
What for then the whole point of the woman giving each one of them a knife?
What is the point?
Well, why is that mentioned in the story?
But I don't.
فأعطت كل واحدة منهن سكينا, right? The verse saying that what she did, when she heard about what they were saying, she called them and she gave each one of them a knife. Okay.
Yeah, but
so there's a knife being mentioned there, right?
All right. Let's say that they cut their hands, but why in chapter 5 verse 38 they have to chop their hands? It is the same word.
It's part of language. I mean, I know what you're getting at, but I think you're making language seem very simplistic, where the same word in everywhere means exactly the same thing. Where here it can be chop, and here it should be chop as well, and over there it should be chop. Everywhere it should be chop. That just isn't the case. That's not how language works.
Yeah, no, exactly. What I'm saying is that qat has been used in Quran 32 times with different meaning. Okay.
Again, this has to do with language. Just because something has been mentioned with so many different meanings, doesn't mean that you can very easily come along and say that this here is one of the other meanings, which isn't part of it, right? So it comes to just understanding the language. I mean, it's just something you have to sort of just learn. I mean, the language just has to be learned in that kind of way, and then you start to see, what this must mean in this sort of situation. So the verb darab, it definitely is used to mean the root and everything. It's used to mean hit and strike a parable. All of it in the end, even all of the different meanings of how it's being used, it comes back down to the concept of hitting something, right? When you strike a parable, why do we say strike a parable? Because it's something like when you make a parable for something, it sort of strikes you in your consciousness. Okay, you're giving him a flash of insight by giving a parable. So it's sort of like it's striking him in his mind, in his mind's eye, in his brain. Okay, in the end, it all comes down to this the roots and stuff in Arabic. A lot of them, they come down to a basic idea. Okay.
But it is not physical, it is metaphorical. That strike is not physical.
Yes, it's not physical. That's true, but it means this kind of striking. So it's like this suddenness of striking something, right? Yeah. Right. And when you say, if you strike on the earth, strike through the earth, it just means when you strike with your feet, right? When you march, you march, right? You're striking with your feet, right? Think of an army marching, striking, boom, boom, right? You've got that. Yes. The whole army sort of maybe marching in unison, and you get that striking motion. So you do have the things are connected in that kind of way. But again, this is something that once you see this kind of phraseology everywhere, okay, somebody will say, why did you hit him? لماذا ضربته? Why did you hit him? Okay, فضربوه, and he hit him. The whole of the Arabic language, you have this, right? And then in this verse, where it's clearly talking about discipline. And by the way, the other thing I didn't mention, this verse is talking about. We shouldn't think of it as talking about some sort of. It's talking about where in this situation, this verse is discussing the time where the husband is in the right and the wife is in the wrong. Okay, because a lot of time people want to romanticize this sort of thing where it's like there's some evil husband and the wife, she burnt the toast or something, and then the Quran is saying you can hit her or something. No, it's not talking about that. In the verse which is mentioned here, okay, it's where the husband is in the right basically, and the wife is not acting in the way which the part before the verse says, which is فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهُ. Okay, that's. But again, I mean, the way out of this verse for anybody who wants sort of my way out of, if you don't get the verse, if you don't understand, my way of explaining to people the way out of it, quote unquote, is that the first part of the verse is speaking about it's laying the groundwork for the rest of the verse is contingent upon, okay, relies upon. If the first part of the verse doesn't apply, then the last part of the verse doesn't apply. Okay, that's how I would give it out. But let me get to the, because I saw that I knew this would be controversial things. So let me just look at some of the comments. I like this one from Andrea. I think the verse says strike, and it also means hit like hit the road. That reminds me of that parody song, right? Hit the road, Trump. What's it? Hit the road, Trump. What it says? And don't come back no more, no more. Hit the road, Trump. And don't you come back no more. Yeah, hit the road, Trump. Right, he's gone. Or like something that strikes you and changes your condition. Like exactly. So a parable can strike you in your mind. You know, somebody strikes a parable for you and it changes your condition. That's true as well. This is let me just catch up with some of these. Maybe you want to comment on some of these as well. And it says here, and when you travel in the earth, okay, so that's the translation of that. When you travel through the earth, indeed, disbelievers offer you open enemy. That's the next part of that verse. When something strikes you, it changes the way you think. Exactly. Okay, that's the point of a parable. Or you can move it. I don't know what that refers to. It also means to strike a person. Okay. Move the rock and the streams will appear. I don't know what that means. Here we go. I have an interesting one. The Holy Quran struck me in such a way that I had no choice but to submit to it, and I can go back to my older ways, except if that is the will of Allah. Okay, yes. Okay, it means touch. There's a lot of comments here. Maybe somebody should highlight them the other way, because I want to give these a due. It means to touch in a physical way or a spiritual way. It also means to make aware of something. It's an awakening call. Okay, very nice. But in the case of 434, this looks like the meat of it, you can choose the meaning of strike. The problem with beat is that it contradicts what Allah says about aggression. It's never a solution. Yeah. So it's a very firm decision on that. I don't see why should someone beat a person who is acting arrogant and having high standards. I understand Allah is also talking about finances. Okay, that's true, I suppose. It says وَضَرَبُوهُنَّ and set forth to I don't know what that is. And set forth وَضَرِبُوهُنَّ. Yeah, okay, maybe set forth. When I read about the laws of divorce, I see that Allah gave the couple many reasons to stick together and try to solve the problems. That's true. You know, the interesting thing about this thing, I mean, again, narrations shouldn't be the thing, but one very interesting thing is that when you take all the narrations about the whole situation of the Prophet, his relationship with this whole idea of beating wives or hitting wives, as he was definitely 100% seems to have been against it, you know.
Yes.
And and there's one narration where it says, I wanted something, but God wanted something else, right? And it shows you just how, just what, he was a very gentle person. People, it's such a crime that he is vilified the way he is. But in the end, this is another thing that we need to remember, right? I mean, especially us in the Qur'anist, sort of Qur'anist community. Okay, they would lash onto these verses, these hadiths where the Prophet would never have done it. He'd say, the ones who do it are the worst of us. And this, so there are people who would accept. I'm talking now about the people who accepted the verses, hit them. Okay, so there are some, people who want to say we put the Quran first, and they accepted the verses, hit them. But then in this case, they want to put the Prophet's example above the Quran. Okay, the hadiths here now, they say no. Now the hadiths are more important than the Quran. No, okay. In this situation, in this verse, okay, Quran is right, the Prophet is wrong. Okay, and that's how we. I mean, if you're going to accept that, it means hit. If you're going to accept that the verse means hit, you cannot then say, no, the Prophet was more knowledgeable or had better advice than the Quran. He didn't. Okay. That's just something else to think about. Okay.
Yeah. I would like to say that what I understand from chapter 3, verse 7, because that's the most important verse that the author says how to read the unspecific verses of Quran.
Yeah, sorry, just one more thing. I just want to say quickly, if you don't mind, make it quickly, because I just remembered we've got somebody waiting in the background all this time.
All right, okay, yeah. All right.
And I almost forgot about him.
Yes, okay.
That's right. So
no problem. Okay, then inshallah we talk next time, and I will go to my stream and go live.
Right.
And those who would like to talk to me about this, we can continue there. I appreciate it very much, inshallah, brother.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much. Perfect da'wah as always. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect da'wah. Real gentleman, mashallah. Okay, Khal, I'm going to bring you on. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you? Sorry for the wait. I forgot that there was somebody else waiting.
I just joined. Haven't joined from the beginning, so I was waiting.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Just thank you for your patience.
I mean, do you want to keep continuing talking about the verse, or do you want to talk about?
No, whatever you want. It's your space now, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about what I presented or something else, it's fine.
The verse is quite ambiguous, like some people said in the comment, and I think we should avoid like what you said about like striking somebody violently or something like that, and a lot of it causes problem to the ummah, and let's say. But I don't know if you have heard of the YouTube channel called Marbut's Qur'an. That's called Dr.
Hani, yes.
Dr. Hani Sarhan, and his ways of doing.
The Abrahamic locution, I think that's what he talks about.
What do you think of?
Yeah, I mean, somebody mentioned him. Was it me who mentioned it a while back, just before, because I saw somewhere a tweet or something from Farid from Farid Responds, right? Some tweet or something where I got the sense from that he was about to start, his, because he's all about debunking and responding and stuff like that. That he was going to start on Dr. Hani. So that's then I think when I mentioned that, somebody asked me about that. And look, I don't understand. I don't understand what he's saying.
You have to watch a lot of his stuff. I have to spend time to watch his stuff.
Yeah, you have to You have to watch a lot.
Yeah, he has some interesting stuff to say. I mean, he criticizes tafsir, the old tafsirs, and how they. On the Quran, and like using other.
Sorry to cut you off, because otherwise I'm going to forget this. Actually, when I first heard of him I forget where I saw the video, or somebody linked it to me or something, and I watched a video of his. It was fantastic, and I agreed with it. I thought it was an amazing job, and this was actually very close to when I started doing these streams, the Caravan of Contemplation. So it was early on, and sort of I thought, okay, let me invite him on to share this contemplation, which he shared in this video. I thought it was fantastic. I thought, come on, would you like to come on and share it on my channel? And so I put that comment on his video, and he replied. He got the impression that I was inviting him on to interview him. But I said, no, it is an interview. It's just, it's sort of a space I've created where I just, I invite anybody to just come along and share their reflection on the Quran and interpretation of some verses with whoever's going to be listening, which, isn't that much. And he actually has got quite a large YouTube channel. I think he's got, how many subscribers? 50 or 30 or something thousand. But anyway, I invited him on. But I felt, like I said, at first he thought I was going to interview him, but I explained no. And then afterwards, I forget why he replied, but basically said, he wouldn't be able to. So I would have, at that time, I was like, yes, come on, and just, because I saw that whatever that was, I forget what the video was, that's a problem. Whatever that video was, I thought it was very well done. And later on, I tried to watch more of his stuff. Of course, they're very long videos. So it takes a while to just leave something on and sort of like try to listen to it. I think that's the only thing, that first thing which I watched was the only thing I've agreed, which I've understood first and then agreed upon. The rest of the stuff which I've watched from him, I haven't even, it goes over my head how he's going about it. So of course I don't really agree with it. Joseph Islam, I've noticed he's done quite a few videos about his channel now. And so I watched a few of those, and I have to say I agree more with Joseph Islam, from Quran centric, from Quran centric, I agree more with what he's showing. But in the end, I don't like to get up into people's sort of like business on these kind of things, what they're trying to do. I mean, he is definitely trying to promote this focus on the Quran, and that's a good thing in my book. That's a good thing.
We need more of that nowadays.
Exactly. Even if it's done wrongly, even though sometimes I think to myself, okay, if it's done really wrongly, then it could just put people off the Quran entirely, especially if you don't, because I feel for people who don't understand the Arabic, and when you have people telling them that all the translations are really wrong or completely wrong, that I think can be problematic, because then they will start thinking, okay, nobody knows what anything means. Even though the Quran is clear Arabic, it's muyassar, in terms of like that verse we were just talking about, and hit them and strike them, all of that. We have to give credit to the Quran. It's Allah has made it really an easy speech. Okay, for the most part, it's very, very easy speech. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made the Quran easy as a reminder, for remembrance. So is anybody who will take the admonition? And I think that translates over into translations as well. I mean, I mentioned that in, I don't know if it was last stream or the stream before, that part of God's making the Quran easy, okay, and the Quran is going to be a dhikr for the alameen, for the worlds, okay, is that it's easy to translate. It's easy to translate. Okay, it's gonna be able to go into other languages easily. Okay, that's why it didn't make it into these. I mean, people who start to learn Arabic, okay, and then only read the Quran, they have no idea how easy the Quran is, because they learn Arabic and then they're reading the Quran. Okay, but if they try to read, for example, some of the poetry at the time of the Prophet or the pre-Islamic poetry, their head will spin. They have no idea how difficult the Arabic is. Okay, the Quran compared to that is so it's just made so simple, and it flows so easily. Okay, easy language. There's very few. The vocabulary flow is very, very low. I mean, so low, amazingly low. For something like the Quran. Okay, the amount of vocabulary used in the Quran is so minimal, right?
And it strikes you like the beauty of it, the way it's formed.
I mean, that's why I've said, that the people who say that the Quran is a miracle in eloquence, or nothing can be more eloquent than the Quran. Okay, in a way that's true, but at the same time, no, and God did not intend in sending the Quran for it to be the most eloquent thing ever. If He had wanted to, it would have been something even more than this. Okay, Allah sent the Quran to be easy. Okay, it's still full of eloquence. It's still at the height of eloquence for what it wants to say. Okay, but if God's aim had been eloquence, it wouldn't have been like this. It would have been something even more amazing. It would have been something else entirely. The goal of the Quran was never to be the most eloquent thing ever. That's not its miracle. Okay, that's part of the ijaz. I mean, I wrote a Reddit post about the Quran challenge, right? The Quran says, let them bring a surah like it. Okay. And I was arguing that it's not about the eloquence, right? It's not about the eloquence. There are parts of the Quran which because eloquence is tied a bit to subject matter, right? It's tied to subject matter, right? Some things will seem more eloquent just because of what you're talking about, Okay, when you talk about mundane rules, it doesn't seem that eloquent, right? The rules of marriage, of talaq, of these, okay, it doesn't seem like, wow, something which will move you to tears or blow your mind or anything like that, all right? So eloquence, it can be tied in a way to think. Of course, when you talk about, another thing when you talk about eloquence, it's about how to say the most meaning in the fewest amount of words, right? That's part of the idea of balagha, of eloquence. Where was I going this? Just want to make that point that the defining feature of the Quran isn't just its eloquence, right? The Quran challenge is asking people to just make a surah which will fit into the Quran, which will be like any of the other surahs in the Quran. And in my Reddit post, I actually gave advice about how to do that. Yeah, I said, okay, do this, do this, do this. Here's some word banks which you can use. I think, in my estimation, right? You can use, if you're going to make a surah and it's going to be like the Quran, you can use things which are repeated often in the Quran, right? Any phrases which you find all over the Quran, you can use in your surah, right? You could redo the story of Musa. The story of Musa is done how many times in the Quran? You do a surah which has the story of Musa again, right? And you can, the other things, in Allah Ghafur Rahim, you can use that phrase. Why should that be excluded, all right? Because the point is to make something like the Quran. And anyway, I don't want to babble on about that.
It's a challenge that is like probably yeah. I mean, also we have to keep in mind that the Arabic language is a Semitic language that shares the other Semitic languages, but and also language evolved so much. Like I'm from North Africa, and the Arabic we speak like on the daily basis is way different than the Quran. It's like two completely different things, and some people try to impose that meaning, like of the
That's true.
Meanings on the Quran, and
that's true. The dialect we speak has thing, but the language which is written in North Africa, in like Morocco and Tunisia, the language which has been written throughout the centuries, hasn't changed much, right? So yes, what we speak out might be different, okay. And in fact, I think that's how the Arabs were. We were discussing earlier about the ahruf and the qira'at, right? And don't forget that the Arabs, right? They were in different tribes in different parts of the Arabian Peninsula. They had different dialects. They had very different dialects. So what dialect was the Quran? And the majority position right now is that the Quran was in sort of just like now across the Arab world, we have Fusha Arabic, which all of the Arabs, we can understand. If you're educated, you can understand that. You can read that. The Arabic of the Quran is in the sort of the high Arabic of the poets. So how the poets used to use poetry, which was sort of something which would spread among all of the different tribes in Arabia, and they could all understand the poetry in that kind of way. So it was like sort of a way that, like now, for example, some people, because Egyptian Arabic is so popular because of TV and stuff like this, sometimes when Arabic-speaking people, they speak to other Arabic-speaking people, and their dialects are so different, they'll revert to speaking in sort of like Egyptian, right? A little bit like speaking a bit like Egyptian, because everybody watches the Egyptian TV and movies, so they sort of understand that lingo. Okay? So there's a sort of like, there was a high Arabic which all of the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula knew, and the Quran was revealed in that, not in the dialect of Quraysh. Other people say no, it was in the dialect of Quraysh, like Marine van Putten, the great scholar in Quranic manuscripts and stuff. He goes with the majority opinion, the minority opinion, and the Quran was in Qurayshi dialect. I don't think so. I think it was in that kind of high, that sort of Husha Arabic. So even North Africa, yes, the way we speak is different, but the way it's written, it was always written. The scholars have always wrote in North Africa treatises about Islam and tafsir and this and that and the other, right? And it's always been that same standard sort of Arabic, which hasn't changed all the way up back to the Quran. So languages do change. I mean, there's one of the best persons to listen to about this is Noam Chomsky. He talks. There was this one program where he talks about this distinction of languages is artificial. Because before, of course, don't forget, before borders and before compulsory education across schooling, Okay, you would move from, for example, from Germany to Italy, and the language would gradually change from something German to something more Italian. Okay, in Italy, it used to be that neighboring villages couldn't understand each other. Okay, because the language, it changes so much even across it. But then, of course, you got borders, and you got public education, mass education. You got television across things. So now you cross a border, and literally, cross a border of just within like 100 meters from one side of the border to the other. People speak completely different languages, and they can't understand each other. Okay, that's sort of like an artificial thing that's happened. All right, so because of the schooling system and stuff like this, and so many languages have died out throughout the years. I think there was some. I used to know the statistics about this, but 1,000 languages or something die every year or something like this. Something crazy figure. But we've always had in the Muslim and Arab world, even in Pakistan, right? So there are Pakistani scholars and Indian scholars, okay, who learn Arabic language. It's not their native tongue, but you read their tafsirs and stuff in Arabic, and it's done in perfect classical Arabic, okay, from 500 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, even like now, recently, like Al-Maududi, I think, the one who wrote Al-Khilaf al-Mulk, okay, it's Pakistani. He learned Arabic, he learned it, he had to learn it, he went to school and learned it. But you read his writing in Arabic, very eloquent, very eloquent, and masterfully done. So we've had this, Turks, in Turkey and India and Pakistan, in the Arabic of the various different dialects of Arabic in North Africa, East Africa, in Somalia, all of these people all across the Arabic world, the Muslim scholars, when they wrote in the religious for religious purposes, they usually wrote treatises and things in Arabic, and that was sort of unified across all of them. And that unification of that language, went back for a long time. I mean, you can barely read. To ask somebody who's educated now in Arabic, who knows Arabic well, you can read a book written from 500 years ago in Arabic, okay, from 600 years ago, from 1,000 years ago. The tafsirs, the older tafsirs, you can read them and you can understand them. Try reading something written in what was English 500 years ago, or whenever it was, right? It wasn't that. It's much more difficult reading Shakespeare or any of these. Try to read some of the really old first attempts of writing in English. It's much more difficult.
Yeah.
So the Arabic language has been very stable since Islam, since the Qur'an. It's been very stable because we had dictionaries very early on, right? And just language was such a big part of Arabic, right? It was a big part of the Arab consciousness, right? To be eloquent in Arabic was incredibly important. Poetry, they put, as Ibn Khaldun said, the Arabs made poetry the repository of all of their things, right? So their history was there, their genealogy was there, everything was there in Arabic. And then the Arabic had to explode because it exploded across the Muslim empire because it went so quickly, right? I mean, within just 100 years, look how far stretched the Muslim empire, the Arab empire, I should say, was, because it was really Arab conquests, a lot of them aggressive, but they took Arabic all over there, and it still stayed pretty stable, even though you had it in Andalus to Sind, and you still had people writing in Arabic, which you can read today and you can understand, right? Because it was incredibly unified. And because it spread so fast as well, when something spreads so fast, it doesn't have that big of a chance to change, I think, because you've got somebody whose father and grandfather were in Arabia, right? Abbas ibn Abi Talib, they said that his children are more widespread than any person in history. He's got a son, in Turkey, buried in Turkey, a son buried in India, a son buried somewhere, in Northeast Africa, and so of course these people all spoke like their father. They learned their, from where they were, right, in Mecca, right, in Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib was in Mecca, right? He grew up in Mecca, he learned there. And so his children, they learned, they spoke like those around his parents. And then, they, in one generation, they're far-flung in, across the globe, right? And they're speaking over there and the language is going there. So I don't see how the language could have drifted so far away from how it was. I don't see that.
Yeah, I think going forward is to learn the language more profoundly too, because sometimes we forget that. We focus on other or other traditionalist type scholars to give us the stuff because they studied. But if we study ourselves, we can think.
Yeah. Look, I really believe it's not that difficult.
If it's a holy book, each person should also put the work to understand it, not just let other people give you the understanding, like a lot of the good people are trying.
Yeah, I agree with that, but at the same time, I do also agree that we shouldn't sort of think that it's so. I mentioned this as well before, that the Quran is not so. Its light is not so weak that it won't come through in translation, in just a general translation of people trying to translate. Okay, yes, you have to be wary in terms of some of the sectarian things, or the things which have become part of the hadith and stuff like this, which we are aware of. Like, for example, the verse we're talking about here, right, which is that he will be a sign for the hour. Okay, some of the translations, they literally just say Jesus, they put his name in there, right? Well, it's not there in the Arabic, okay? But you can see that from a different translation by comparing another one. You see that it's not there. And you can, see that you can recognize the name in the transliteration or the thing, or in the recitation. So I don't think that any translations are really that bad. Generally, I think that most of the translations, and that's why people convert to Islam, because they just read. They don't think to themselves, okay, I need to. They go to the bookshop and they pick up any translation of the Quran, they read it, and if their hearts are in the right place, they see something in it, and people convert because of that. The light shines through. It takes a lot. Even you get some of the worst translations, and you still can get the Quranic message from it. In its totality, right? In its totality, and you don't need to worry about one verse being translated wrong. The Quran, half the Quran is enough, to take you to Jannah and give you the idea of what it takes for salvation. It's not difficult, and it goes fits in with your humanity, with your intellect, with your senses. Knowing the I don't know what's called again, the locution, right? The Islamic locution. Okay, it's because I've yet to see, because I did watch, like I said, I watched some of Hani's stuff.
His first videos are easy to understand, but the more he gets into it, sometimes you probably he's kind of like a botany tafsir, but
I mean, it's fine, but I mean, in the end, the Quran is supposed to be for dhikr, right? It's supposed to be guidance for the muttaqeen. It's supposed to help propel you towards your guidance, to taqwa, to birr, to ihsan, these things. From the things which I watched from his, I don't see he talks a lot. It's like he's trying to correct things in history, correct this, correct that. Okay, this is the false understanding, this is the right understanding. Okay, but where is the Quran was not sent for us to know these details correctly. Okay, it's sent to be a guidance. Okay, so how is your interpretation, the interpretations he has given, how are they increasing me in guidance? Okay, because I do believe this. He probably has a lot of. I mean, I've seen a few of his things which I think are very good. They're good gems to listen to. But I'd have to sift through hundreds of hours of his content to find. You have to be efficient sort of for your when you want to sort of try and take some wisdom from other people, right? Seek people of dhikr, people of real dhikr, and you can gain some insights from them. And but
take everything, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. It's not necessary to take everything, but also that, you know, when a lot of it is not, when you don't find a lot of it helpful, and you only find like maybe a small percentage to be helpful, then it's not very efficient. It's not very efficient. You're better off spending that 1.5 hours rather than listening to that, you know, with the Quran yourself. With any translation of the Quran, you will get something where you actually learn something for yourself, for your spiritual life, for your, you know, for your outlook on life. You know, you can get that. You know, the app which I mentioned in one of the streams, and also in some of the community posts, this new Quran Reflect app, right? Which, you know, it's trying to make it a global community where everybody's reflecting on the Quran, right? I look at that every once in a while. The reflections which I see there are not, so they're sort of like anecdotal. They're very personal, of people talking about how this verse makes them feel, or this makes them feel. They're sort of like moral, like people giving like moral. They're taking like moral advice, or giving you some, you know, sort of like motivational talks. That's how they read to me, a lot of these reflections. Okay, but they help a little bit. They help a little bit more than a lot of what I've seen from marvelous Quran, because it's not really inspiring me towards, as I said, bir and taqwa, the goals of the Quran, right? The Quran has goals, you know. لعلكم تفلحون لعلكم ترحمون لعلكم ترشدون. You know, you're supposed to be heading somewhere. You're supposed to be, you know, you're supposed to be developing in your humanity, in your intellect, in your hearing, in your sight.
Changing ourselves to a better state, always. Always evolving forward.
Yeah. And so, you know, wrangling about the meaning of certain things, which, and then you say, okay, then fine, I'll go along with you, and I will say this means that. Okay, where is it going to? Where's the wisdom? Okay, what's the next step? What's the wisdom that's going to come from this? Right? So that's why I don't get. I mean, one of the things, for example, like Mufti Abu Layth, right? He has that interpretation of which the first time I heard of it, right, was of the birds. Okay, Ibrahim and the birds. Okay, where he says that it's not they weren't killed, and all of that, you know. So, you know, at first I used to think, okay, that's a strange thing. I took it on board, but later on, okay, it made sense to me, because when you ask why was God doing this? Why did he's saying that, you know, show me how you give life to the deaf. Okay, كيف تحيي الموتى, right? And he says, okay, put on every mountain top one of these birds. Some of these birds. Okay, right? Put on, and then call them. Okay, well, if he does that, does he actually see them come to life? No, they're at the top of mountains, and he supposedly is down on the ground, right? So if God is telling, why not just, okay, kill them there in front of him and then bring them to life in front of him? Why put them on these mountains? And why call them? Well, what is happening here? You know, I made, in the end, when I thought more about this, I put my tadabbur on that, and, you know, we talked about it in one of the streams, that in the end, that how God will revive the mota is mentioned in the Quran. وَإِذَا دَعَاكُمْ دَعْوَةٌ مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ تَخْرُجُونَ. Okay? When it's a da'wah, God will call us with a da'wah. Will bring us out with a da'wah. So what is Ibrahim told to do? He's told to practically enact that same sort of thing. The birds represent sort of like the spirits, and so they're up high. You know, the spirits, when they leave our bodies, they will go up high, supposedly, right? But anyway, the point is they're on mountaintops, and he will call them, and they will come. And in the same way that when Allah calls the spirits to their bodies, they will come. They will come running. Okay, so then, okay, now I get something from this. Right, I understand. Okay, I can see this verse much more clearly. Right, it helps me. The other verse, I mean, there's maybe I'll make a stream about that. The one about, you know, they say it's a scientific error, right, in the Quran, that, you know, يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب, right? That the seam or the sperm, you know, comes out between the backbone and the ribs, right? And they say, okay, this is a scientific error. What does it mean, right? And, you know, in the end, you know, this is one of the things there are many things in the Quran you can just put on the shelf. You don't have to accept something. There's not like scientific theories. Scientific theories, right? You accept something, a theory, until something better comes along. Okay, but you accept it even though with its flaws. It has flaws. You accept it because until something, and then you supersede it. You don't have to do that with the Quran. You don't have to, accept something, okay, and then I have to accept something. You can just leave it blank. I don't understand. I don't know. Leave it. Eventually, something comes up, and that guy was named Abdullah. Abdullah, the guy from he's involved with those Dawah guys, the EF Dawah and Hamza's Den. What's his name? Abdullah.
Oh, I don't really follow him a lot anymore. I used to.
Yeah, I forget his name. What's his name? The Asadi or Andalusi. Andalusi, like that one. He put out a very good article. I think it was on Yaqeen Institute, which was about that verse and showing that it's a euphemism. And then, of course, it makes sense now to me. It's a euphemism. It's euphemism for basically ejaculation, right? Ejaculation. يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب. The tribe is to represent the woman, and the sulb is to represent the man. And he shows how that's that's shown in a lot of Arabic literature. But also then you see, of course, it means that because the Quran is never vulgar in these kind of things. It's not going to mention in that kind of way. So it's a euphemism. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, for ejaculation. So so that's something which helps. Okay, I understand this now. Okay, it solves something. So that's where I see a lot of these things when it comes to marvelous Quran. Also the whole thing with the Code 19, which I haven't looked into, the Code 19 and stuff. People talk about that, and I say, okay, yes.
Mufti Abu Layth did an interview on that. And,
who did? Sorry.
Mufti Abu Layth did an interview with a guy.
Yeah.
I think he brought somebody who refuted the whole situation.
Yeah, I haven't watched that. I haven't looked at. I saw that notification for that, but I never got to see it. But my only thing with it is, okay, let's say that you have all of these code. The Code 19 is there. Okay, what does it do for us in terms of giving us wisdom? You can say, you can say, well, it's a proof for the Quran. Yeah, but if you're not seeing. If you're not seeing the Quran, the Quran's divinity, if you're not being able to, sort of at least sense some of that, without this code, then how are you going to benefit from it once you know it's, that it's got that code? And I don't see as much benefit to it. One thing I wanted to see if it would help with the whole issue of the qira'at, right? Can it help us to know which of the qira'at is correct? And I've asked people about that. Some people contacted me and said, yes, about the code. And I said, okay, then can it help with this issue? There's one issue I would like it to help with, right? There's something which, if it's true, it can help with. Because if this is the code, then it should apply to the correct qira'ah, okay? If the correct qira'ah is written, in terms of how it should be. But then, of course, there's the whole issue of the manuscripts. Most of them, of course, are very stable. The rasm of the Quran, I think it's called they call it rasm al-Uthmani, but it's a rasm al-Nabawi. Sorry, we've been going on for a long time. That's my alarm. Yeah. So it goes. It's I call it rasm al-Nabawi, right? It came from the Prophet. There's this very good guy on Dr. Ziyad or something, where he goes and shows how each of the differences and why this word is written in this way in one verse and written in another way in another verse, here over alif, here about the alif, here over ya, here about the ya, that there's reasons for that. There's an underlying reason for that. And that's something which I first heard from reading the work of Abdul Aziz al-Dabbar, who's a Moroccan sage and Sufi. He wrote a book called Al-Ibriz, and he talked a little bit about that, how even the rasm, it's there are reasons for it. It's not from Uthman. It's not that they decided how to write things and then everybody just copied fervently. No, the rasm it came from the Prophet himself. Anyway, we talked a lot about different things.
Yeah. Well, thank you a lot for your time.
No problem. Alhamdulillah. What's your name? Sorry, my friend.
My name is Khalil.
Khalil, assalamu alaikum, Khalil. Good to have you on. I think this is the first time you've come on, right?
Yes, but I watched a lot of your videos and Hassan Farhan Maliki's videos.
Yeah.
So that's how I found it.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. There's actually Khalid Abul Fadl. He spoke about him in his khutbah yesterday, and I want to actually take a part of that and put it in its own video on my channel, because he had a lot of very positive things to say, and yeah, so brilliant. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, let's very quickly. There's a lot of things in the comments which I didn't get to check out. Oof. And if there's something in the comments which somebody wanted me to address and I haven't seen it, you can do it again, write it now so it comes at the bottom and I can see it. I'll just spend 5 minutes quickly looking through them and see if there's anything that I want to address. I've gone too far up. I've gone to Salam and Happy Judgment Day from Iron Man, that comment. Let's go back down. Because I think I was looking at some of the comments which were about the verse, no wife everything verse. Yeah, so yeah, Qur'an, what's the name? Qur'an Centric has a verse on that. A video on that. He put a recent one about that as well. I haven't seen that, to be honest, but I would highly recommend watching his take on the verse in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 34. Definitely have a look at that. Actually, would it be okay if I rejected to throw? If I rejoin to? Yes, okay. Yes, you can join again. Sorry, I didn't see that. If you're still here, it's fine. You can join if you want to send your 2 cents about that. Or did you already do that? When was this message sent? 11:10. So I think we did get you. Okay, yes. Yeah, but the shoes used to mean cheating. We know the man in pre-Islamic poetry. Yeah, the shoes, I think, has a broader meaning than that. Go down a few more. Yes, Salam's all. I don't like the term i'jaz. Exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's i'jaz. Tibyan is much better. Yeah, you can say that. In the end, there's the Quran, they say miracle, but it's a sign. It's a book of signs, not a book of miracles. What's this say? His channel is like sugar for all the people who are not satisfied with Quran only. Whose channel is that, I wonder? Is that about Dr. Hani? Okay, yes, Rashid, you're back. Okay, let me bring you on.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Yes, I wanted to join when the Perfect Dawah was on, so maybe we could do it together, you and I and him, or if he's still present, I don't know.
No, he's probably started his own stream now.
Yeah, I wanted to also talk about that verse of the beating verse and how I understood myself, because I mean, Surah Nisa is kind of my favorite chapter of the Quran, and there is no verse that I've spent more time trying to understand in the past than that specific verse. And I do understand that it's a bit controversial. It's caused a lot of misunderstanding, or even given license to some of the domestic violences within Islam, or justification for domestic violence within Islam. I do understand that.
Yeah,
but
definitely has.
My understanding of the verse is, of course, different. Is going to be different from the Perfect Dawahs. I mean, I've heard that multiple people specifically from the Qur'anic movement, where the Quran alone movement, where they say that the word daraba does not mean beat, or I don't think that it seems too far-fetched, for that word and not to mean daraba. And also the verse, some of the verses to which he was referencing, that's why I wanted him to be here when I was talking about this, because some of the verses which he was referencing, in which the word daraba is used, they're followed by a preposition which gives a different understanding when you add on the preposition. وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, there is a preposition there. When you travel out through the land, there's most of the words where they're used, for the word daraba, except daraba mathalan. That's the only one where the word daraba is used where it actually does not mean to hit. Everywhere else where it is used, it is already used with the preposition.
Yeah, and that's in the acoustics as well. ضرب مثلا.
Yeah.
I mean, Hassan, I didn't mention this, but Hassan Radwan, the ex-Muslim YouTuber. He had a very good post about that. He had a post about it on his Medium account. He put it on his community tab, but then I think he deleted it for some reason. But yeah, I think he put that to rest pretty well, I think. But it's just to be honest, like I said before, it's just clear cut, obvious to me as somebody who can understand Arabic. It does mean hit.
For me, the way I understand the verse, I look at the both 34 and 35 together. Because those two are very much connected, and when people separate them, I think this is where the issue becomes like a problem. Of course, the word daraba means to hit or beat them or whatever, whichever word people want to use. But when you look at the way the verse is structured from the beginning, it gives you who is being addressed, or what is the verse actually talking about. Like, first of all, it doesn't mention like husband and wife. I mean, it can imply that, I understand that, but the verse doesn't mention husband and wife. Now there is one verse, the other one, which talks about nushuz, but from the woman's perspective. There it says وَإِنْ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا أَوْ إِعْرَاضًا. They are specifically mentioning that from Ba'al, from the husband, and it also uses the word imra at the singular of nisa. However, here it doesn't say, for example, al-bu'ul, qawwamuna ala nisa. It uses the word al-rijal. So for me, that is also an indication that maybe the verse is not specifically being addressed to husbands, because first of all, we need to ask ourselves, like, what is missing from the verse, and ask why is it that the way we have understood it is not what is being said literally. So when the Quran, this verse, when it says al-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa, if we look at the first sentence, al-rijalu qawwamuna ala nisa, you have translated that as being men are maintainers over women, right?
Maintainers, caretakers. Put in the bottom line, basically like sort of in authority, in charge, basically the traditional gender roles. I think that's what it's talking about, just the traditional gender roles.
For me personally, the way I understood that is because I read as being the first sentence. I don't put a stop between qawwamuna ala nisa. Rather, I read it all together until min amwalihim. I read الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. So
I agree.
One whole sentence. That's one whole sentence, and everything is linked together.
We got that. No, I agree completely. Why are Rijal like this? Okay, it's not because they are just men. It's not because of genetics, because they are things. It's not because they are, they are. But why is it? بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. So I mentioned there's two things here. These two things are a reason why الرجال قوامون على النساء.
Yeah, exactly. And that plays also.
And that's changed, which is why, the way I help people sort of get over this verse. I say, look, that doesn't apply anymore, right? Nowadays, it's not. It's sort of الرجال والنساء بعضهم قوامون على بعض. That's the ideal that's mentioned. That's people are seeking out as well. It's how it is in many places, and that's what's being sought out. Okay. بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. It can be now both. Some of the women are in more position of this fadl than the men, and also some of the women are now spend on each other. They're all working. Okay, men and women are both working. They're both spending. So it doesn't apply. So the rest of the verse where it says فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ right? So based on the previous. Okay, based on the previous. The rest of the verse applies, okay? And including the next part, which is وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِظُوهُنَّ. Okay, so all of that again applies to that. Okay, that's because الرجال قوامون على النساء. Because of that, and because of the reasons for that, because of that, how should the women be? They should be فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ مَا حَفِظَ اللَّهُ. That's how they should be. Okay. But those who are in the shoes away from that, those who are not like that, in the shoes away from that, فَعِظُوهُنَّ, etc. What you mentioned before, how you can, expand this to beyond the sort of like wife, you're saying, might be beyond marriage. That'll be difficult because, of course, the verse at the end is saying, وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, right?
Yeah. That's the thing, is that I say that I don't say that, yes, you could expand it. It's not limited to the domestic living arrangement. For example, for me, the way I see it, or the way I must keep, where I maybe would take a different approach, it would be where the word قوام على النساء. That's where, for example, I would take maybe a slightly different approach here. For me, I read it as in men, okay, are the qawwam, as opposed to women, because of what they spend, or because Allah has given some of them an advantage over others, and because of what they spend of their wealth. That is how I understand it.
So opposed to, right? So rijal qawwamuna, as opposed to the women.
Yes. So this is a factual statement. It's, as you said. So this is where we again come together, that we agree that this is a factual statement. It's not that Allah is giving an injunction. He's not commanding something. He's just stating a statement of fact that men are.
It doesn't say فليكون الرجال قوامون. It doesn't say that. Right?
Exactly.
In that kind of way.
Exactly, and the interesting thing is that because you do have this type of sequence when it's posed as an amr, that Allah says, for example, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamuna lillahi shuhada bil qist, using the same word qawwamuna lillah. If it was a command, Allah would have said Ya ayyuhal rijal kunu qawwamuna ala nisa, to continue like that. It would have given it like that. But it doesn't. So for me, I understood it as, for example, Allah is stating a statement of fact that men are the qawwam. And here, I don't think that it means men are caretakers or protectors, but rather men are the qawwam. As far as society is concerned, that men are the qawwam, as opposed, they are the ones who maintain society. They are the ones who build up society. They are the ones who take care of things within society, not just women. So it says that qawwam ala nisa, they are the qawwam as opposed, or they are the qawwam above women. So because why are they the qawwam in society, or the ones that maintain society, uphold society? Why? Bima faddala Allah ba'dahum ala ba'd, because Allah has given an advantage to some of them over others, not all of them, but an advantage to some of them over others, and because they spend of their wealth. again, it doesn't say bima anfaqu. It doesn't say because they spend yanfiquna. It doesn't say because they spend yanfiquna alayhinna. Doesn't say that they spend of the wealth upon the women. No, doesn't say that. You see, that's the thing, is that we understood it as if it's saying that because we are linking that they are the caretakers of women because they are spending of their money onto the women. But no, it's just saying that because men are the ones who were spending of wealth. That's all it's saying. And this is a societal thing, that men weren't just spending on the women. They were spending on society, building up society, maintaining society. They were the ones who build the world, as people say. Men did build the world. As not that the women did not contribute, of course they did, but as a general statement. This is a general statement, a statement of fact that was there at the time and is still even today continuing. Majority, of course, the majority of society, for example, is built by men. That's even today in today's world. If you look at, for example, when it comes to maintenance of society, for example, the hard jobs are being dominated by men. You know, those jobs where it's about building society up. Those ones are, you know, really men even today. Of course, the balance has shifted a bit, that women are also coming up in that, you know, in those fields as well. But this statement, I think that it is a statement of fact, that it is a statement which is saying that men are the qawwam ala nisa, they are the qawwam as opposed to women. I think that's a much better rendition than saying they are the caretakers.
So how does that rendition carry on through the rest of the verse?
Yes, yes. So yes, exactly. So then it follows, for example, that as for the women who were within society, this is not again a command. This the next statement. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهُ. Now, if I ask a question like, which of these things does not apply to a man? Like that, the things that I mentioned on the women. فَالصَّالِحَاتُ, let's shift it to the men. فَالصَّالِحُونَ, for example, okay, قانتون, you know, قانتون, isn't that correct? Aren't men قانتون? Okay, what about the حافظون للغيب بما حفظ الله? Wouldn't that apply to men as well?
It can, I suppose, but the issue is, like, okay, because I was going to mention this later, but I want to see where you're going to go with this.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, okay, if it was about sort of society, building up society and stuff, why even mention Nisa in the beginning of the verse? Why can't they just be الرجال قوامون على I don't know على الأمة على المجتمع, you know, upon thing, right? Because it's the fact that Nisa are mentioned here, okay. It just sort of follows that for Salihat over there, what's meant, of course, is Nisa, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it is Salihat, as in the you know, it's in the feminine, right? So when we have, you know, that, you know, إن المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات والقانتين والقانتات, right? والحافظين والحافظون لفروجهن والحافظات. Okay, you have this, you know, that's the feminine, that's the masculine. This is about the men, this is about the women.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that. I was just giving that as an aside, like a tangent. But that's not exactly where I'm going. Yes, I do recognize that the verse, this part of the verse is being specifically addressed to women. It's not a command, but it's again another statement that as far as society was constructed at the time, when you notice that a woman who's a salihah, that it would be a woman who is qanitatun, okay, who was, for example, considered to be, you know, a woman of honor. It's again saying that qanitatun hafizatu lil ghaibi bima hafiz Allah. That this is again another statement of fact. It's not.
But it's not the same as the first one. It's not just as-salihatu qan. It's not. It doesn't start off as-salihat. It says fal-salihat.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's saying.
Therefore, it's saying
therefore. based on what's before,
Based
this
on
is
what can
how
be.
salihat should be.
Yes.
So what does it mean in that kind of society? Like if we put it the way you say, that kind of
Yeah.
society, what does it mean for a woman to be salihat? That's what we're saying. So if that's the case, salihat or how, they are like this: qanitat,
Yeah.
hafizatun lil ghaybi bima hafiz Allah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
It is correct. It is following the therefore. It doesn't negate from, for example, from the way I was explaining.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
It does not negate it.
Saying the same thing, yes.
Yeah, it's not negating it. It's just continuing. It just meant that they spend of their wealth. Therefore, the righteous women, the salihat, are the obedient one, or subservient, as people translate it also. That I don't think that maybe that is the proper subservient. I would say maybe devoted. That would be much better translation, to be devoted. The word qanit. للغيب بما حفظ الله. Then you have the next, part of the verse, which is saying, واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع وضربوهن. One thing that I have noticed about this part of the verse is that people have understood it to give like a point by point or a step by step understanding, which the verse does not give at all.
Yeah, that's
the verse is giving
doesn't say
everything.
thumma, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. If Allah wanted to give a do this, if that doesn't work, then do this. Then if that doesn't work, then do this. He would have used thumma. واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن ثم اهجروهن في المضاجع ثم ضربوهن. It would have said that and would have gotten the point that you're supposed to do it step by step. However, the verse says that those ones whom you fear, they are nushuz. And again, here it says they are nushuz. It doesn't say wallati takhafuna nushuzan. Like it says they are nushuz. So this is something that they have engraved in them, that they have a nushuz within them. Then of course the part comes on us to understand, okay, what does Allah mean by the term nushuz? It is used in the Qur'an, for example, when Allah says وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَكُمْ انشُزُوا فَانشُزُوا, when it says to you, do nushuz, what does that mean? I think it has something to do with taking action. It's an action that it's not something that is dormant. It is something, it's when you are taking action towards something with the implication of going to do something. I would say that this is an action. So Allah is saying that I would say maybe uprising is also it's a fine word that you're to be uprising in a rebellious manner, let's say, not in a positive sense but in a negative sense. So Allah here is saying that wallati takhafuna nushuzahunna fa'idhuhunna, then do advise them, wahjuruhunna fil madaji', then and do hijrah from them within the beds, and wadribuhunna, and hit them or strike them. And the way I understand that part of the verse is that Allah is letting the human being or the people within the society, or if it is happening domestically, that within the society that we are supposed to apply what is appropriate to the nushuz. If the nushuz is not violent, if the nushuz, as I said, it can mean uprising. If the nushuz is not in a violent manner, then you as a human being, you cannot apply a violent response as an answer. You can apply other means. All the means are there. You can apply the appropriate means to the nushuz. If the nushuz is violent, then you have to apply that in order to quiet the situation or to bring the situation under control. And if the nushuz is not violent, then you cannot apply the part of daraba, or to hit. You can
this is very along the similar lines to what I've concluded about that as well. Exactly that part. It's not an order. It's an order of severity, not an order in which it must be applied. Okay, exactly. The most applicable one is what you apply
Exactly.
For the situation. Exactly what I've concluded about that as well.
Yeah, so I understood it. For example, if you are reading this verse when it's saying that those ones whom you fear, the nushuz, if the nushuz is not violent, you cannot apply violence. You can advise the person. If it is domestically and you're having issues, you can do the separation and you can separate from the beds to quiet the situation. One other thing is that when the Quran gives a directive, and this is what I have come to understand myself. When the Quran gives a directive, it's not necessarily telling you that this is the best option to follow. That is what I have understood.
Yeah.
For example, he in the next verse right there, it tells you that وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا إِنْ يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا. That it says that if you fear shiqaq between both of them, then bring up or raise up, appoint or set.
Send a judge from her family, judge from his family.
Exactly. Yeah? So you are supposed to appoint an arbitrator from his family and her family. Now, suppose I say, you know what? I think I would rather go to a marriage counselor.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, here's it's given in the amr form. فَبِعَثُوا, that is an amr. Okay, it's given in the amr form. فَبِعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. So suppose I say that, you know what, I would rather go and see a marriage counselor but hang on a minute, I have gone does that mean that I have gone against the Quran? Well, no. But here again, because I feel like going to a marriage counselor will solve the issue much better than appointing an arbitrator from his family or her family, because this can lead to he said she said thing where people have to, where this one says, oh well, my daughter is right, and the other one says, oh, his daughter is right, his son is right, and you have all this problem.
Yeah. Well, even just the option what's mentioned in the Quran, a person from her family, person from his family, that is also a good thing. But the point of it, I think, is what you're getting at, is that can be applied even before any of the other steps in verse 34.
Exactly.
That's true. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I've said, again, this is you're going along the very similar lines to what I will be going on. Exactly.
Yes.
That these things can it doesn't have to be you have to go, okay, I have to go through this whole procedure. I must first I must speak of her, then I must not be with her in the bed, and then I must hit her, and then only then, after I've done this, only then am I allowed to go to
exactly.
No, of course not. Exactly.
No,
it's all that can be done in any of those. But what is the verse is saying, when khiftum, okay, in khiftum. This now though is the thing about that. It's talking about who's going to be doing that in khiftum. Who are whom?
Yeah, that was my next point.
Yeah, it's the wider community, right? If you think that this marriage now it's going to be broken, okay, then send, okay, then intervene in that kind of way. You can intervene in that kind of way. Yeah. Go ahead. Don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, that was my my next point. That if you take this verse 35 and link it with 34, and you remove, let's say that you remove the understanding, you just clear your mind, maybe remove the understanding that it's mainly addressing domestic couples, that it's addressing that. But if you read both of them with the assumption, or maybe not with the pre-assumption, but following as it goes along, and the you in the prepositions, it can also give you the understanding that, for example, that maybe it is not the domestic couples that are being mainly addressed, because if you're reading the verses together, it is using prepositions. For example, you have who it is talking about when it says فَصَالِحَاتُ, sorry, when it's saying, for example, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ, okay, who's the takhafuna here? Is it men Is it the society? Is it who is it? I mean, we know that it's maybe not addressing women exclusively, that because the grammar doesn't allow for that, but can it be addressing both men and women? Sure, it could be addressing both men and women. It could also be addressing exclusively men. I mean, it could also, or it could be addressing both, as I said. So if you follow in that line, for example, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, who is the you when you fear? Okay, so if we go with the assumption that it's talking on a societal basis, that it's addressing everybody, when you people fear nushuz, and also in this one we say فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ, you people who are in charge, you people who are in charge of within society, you people who are people of authority within society, that those are the ones who are being referenced, and it continues from there. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, and when you fear شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا, between them, the you is still continuing, and you can understand that maybe it is possible that the verse is actually addressing the entire society, both verses, not just one, and there's no this shift of who's being addressed. So anyway, that is how
I understand. I understand what you're saying. Very a lot of points. A lot of what you're saying is mirroring what I've come to about this verse. But I still don't see it doesn't get to the heart of the issue. This is what I want to. This is something which I want to address. Like I said, I don't want to put it in writing or just say it here without any pre-thought. I want to actually make it, because I know it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be difficult to understand, to be honest, or if it's going to be something which will be shocking. But I want to make sure I've worded it correctly and put it correctly, and I've also put some sort of justification. Because yes, what you mentioned in there. I mean, I'm not convinced that it can be broadened out beyond the marriage confine, just because it's وَهْجُرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, right? So it's talking about a sexual relationship, right? So so for you وَهْجُرُهُنَّ, you leave them in their thing. That must mean that the husbands to their wives. I don't see how the society can get involved in that. They also do that, unless they. Society comes along and makes him, you're not allowed to be with your wife tonight. I don't know, right? But no, I understand. Like I said, I understand what you're saying. It can be broadened, but I'm still not seeing that as much. And also, even the next verse, okay, then send a hakam from his family and a hakam from her family. So it's a single him and a single her. Okay, these are obviously in the marriage relationship. These are the ones who he will leave her in the bed, right? So it's just, I think the plural here, when it says takhafun and nushuzahun, when it says all this, it's part of just it's part of the balagh of the Quran, where it's addressing in the plural sense, in the plural sense, something, without laqtumun nisa, right? When you divorce women, right? When you divorce women, it doesn't mean the society will do the divorcing. It's talking about each individual man when he wants to divorce his wife or something, he will. This is what you should do, right? So, we have this thing where the plural is being mentioned, okay, but doesn't mean that the society, it's meaning each individual person, okay, in his own relationship, this is how he should act, okay? But the heart of the matter, the whole heart of this, yes, even what I said before, that, you can, in the modern age, the beginning part of the verse doesn't apply, so the rest doesn't apply, okay? Even that, it doesn't get to the heart of the issue, which is why in the first place, have God himself advising to hit women. Okay, why? What is it all about? Okay, that is not a gentle thing. It's not it doesn't seem like a nice thing or a merciful thing. Why allow this kind of thing, which could and has been involved in a lot of domestic violence. It's been a justification for domestic violence and stuff. I mean, the people who use that as justification, they would be violent anyway, probably. But the point is, it's there, okay? It's there. And what is the reason? Okay, that's the heart of the issue. Why is that even there?
Yeah, I mean,
why is that there from the first place? Why should it be there at all? Why not just not have that? Why not just have وَهْجُرُونَ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ and then go on فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. Why isn't not just whole thing striked out? Why is it there? Okay, why is it being there a wisdom and a good thing, and
No,
it's not being there a bad thing?
for me, I took it as it must be. I mean, because nushuz can be of any of any kind.
No, but even okay. So she. I mean, in terms of domestic violence, women are more violent to their husbands than the amount of violence. In terms of the amount, right? Women do a lot more violence, domestic violence to their husbands, but when of course they don't report it, and it's not very it's not as dangerous as what men do to women. Women
No,
are much more. The
exactly.
violence is much more damaging, much more strong, etc. Right? But women, they're hitting their husbands all the time, man.
Yeah, sometimes you have certain women.
Women are always hitting their husbands. But does that mean the man should now beat her back?
No. I'm saying that in order to alleviate, to quiet the situation. Like, sometimes, and I'm going to say something here. Sometimes, there are certain women who, society has this idea, for example, today that it's never right to strike a woman. So that is like the understanding, as if it's never like as if women can never do anything that is worth hitting them, and that is
they don't have that the idea. They have the idea that it's never women can do nothing that for which a man can hit them.
Yeah,
but they're happy if women hit each other. It's okay.
Exactly. So I think that maybe
one does something really bad, that one can smack her.
Yeah. Of course they do. I mean, there are certain women who are extremely violent, like they will punch a guy without a second thought, and so I'm saying that in that case, if for example a woman comes at the guy, he obviously knows that I am the bigger individual, so I would, if it went into a fight, I would I would knock her out or whatever. But sometimes you have certain women who just wants to beat up on men. So in these situations where it is a necessity for the man to, where this woman is just, she just coming at him. I say that in this case, because this kind of nushuz is violent. So for the man, in order to quiet this situation, if the only resort that he has, that he may apply a violent reaction in this particular instance, but only as an alleviation, as a way to alleviate, to quiet the situation. So
I understand. And people, I mean, the modern age is getting to be like that anyway, right? There are plenty who say now. I mean, there was this, I forget what it was. This was a long time ago. I used to see those things when people put out these memes now, right? Equal right, equal lefts, right? What they say, some gets hit back, right? And and that's what's happening now, right? That chivalry is going, right? What was it? Dave Chappelle, right? He said, when people say chivalry is dead, he goes, and women killed it, right? Because they don't want men to open the doors for them and put out a chair for them and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. And again, a lot of my thoughts. I mean, a lot of what you've said is in my understanding of this verse. I have a bit more things about that as well. But excellent. Thank you for getting.
Sorry for taking up so much of.
No, it's fine. I think it's worth it. It was worth it. I mean, I didn't have much. I didn't have to get to bed early today, so it's all right. We've gone almost 3 hours, so this is the longest stream I've had yet. But it's good. It's been good. We've had a lot of excellent additions. Let me just because there were so many comments, I feel bad having to not having to go through some of them. At least let me try and get a few more. There was this question by Ashar Sayyid. Could it be that the dialect of the Quraysh is similar, close to the High Arabic? I think it is. But I mean, there are some things which are known about the dialect of the Quraysh which isn't in the Quran, right? So the Hamza and these kind of things that the Quraysh did not have.
Yeah, the Hamza. Yeah.
Strong Hamza, yeah, and these kind of things. And what's this? Yeah, some interesting. I don't know who this is talking about. Dr. Hani, maybe I shouldn't show it. Maybe the fucking no, I don't want to show that. Okay, let's see. Dr. Hani trying to reinvent the wheel. Okay. So there's a lot of talk about Dr. Hani.
Yeah, there's a lot of Dr. Hani.
Let me, yeah. Let me just keep going down. Maybe something else. Yeah, so there's this one. He's talking, well, you guys look so naive because inherited Islam is realistic, that people coded after solving real problems, and you guys just knew coding them again, dealt with no real life problems. Well, yeah, that's in a way that is true. It did solve problems, and it solved problems for sects, right? So it solved some of the problems for its own sect, for the rulers, right? It solved the problem for the rulers so that they don't have to, so that anybody who goes out against them can be killed as an apostate, as a rebel, and that solved the problem. So there are, it's in a way that's true, but again, you know, those problems, some of those problems don't exist anymore. So why should we?
Why should we
they solve the problems then? We need to solve our problems now. Why can't we solve our problems now without them? It's easy to create a religion that we can always follow it. Yes, okay. Let me see how many more comments I have there. I think people over there. Anti-pages, I just throw away everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with this. I think a lot of people in the anti-hadith attitude just throw away everything and try to invent Islam from scratch, like redefine the Salah, etc. Like that. Oh, thank you. I like to understand. Thank you. I'm anti-hadith. Yeah. Okay. There's a large corruption. Okay. Yeah, I don't really understand people up to 19 why they think it's amazing. I wish I saw.
Yeah, I never really understood that 19 thing. I mean, it's
I mean, if it's a lot of coding, a lot. I mean, it is. If there is this mathematical structure in there, it is a nice little. It's a good sign and stuff, but it will never trump what the Quran is. What you're actually learning from the Quran should trump that. You know?
But even what was it? For example, what's his name? Edip Yüksel. He really goes. I think he also has a website called 19.org. And he's really into that 19 thing. And
he is.
But the strange thing is that he does not include the last two verses of Surah Tawbah.
Yeah, because they say it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Because they say it doesn't go with the. It doesn't fit into the code, which I understand. That part I do understand, because the whole point of having that code 19 is to say that we use it to help us understand, to preserve the Quran, right? So if the whole of the Quran fits a certain mathematical code, and that whole code, intricate code, is thrown off by these two verses, which they have the historical narrations for, that these two verses were sort of like, they were only found with one person. Okay, right. That they only found them with one person, and that person end up being the person who has the Prophet said, except his testimony is worth two. Okay, then that looks a bit contrived, right? But the thing about it, that last verse, why would anybody want to contrive to put in that last verse? There's nothing really problematic about that.
It's also one of the most beautiful verses of the Quran.
Yeah. Well, they say the problem. Yeah, they say the problem with it is it gives two names of God to Muhammad. Okay, no, it doesn't. It describes him with two qualities. Okay, but you know, Ibrahim is described as Halim. Okay, that's one of God's name as well. But the other thing, I mean, I could potentially accept that those two verses are not part of the Quran, but I definitely accept that they are part of Revelation. So the way I've explained to people who accept this 19 and they say that these verses are not part of the Quran, I say, okay, then fine, they're not part of the Quran, but but I can definitely see that these are part of the revelation. It's the same voice, it's the same divine voice in there. So what I would say, what I would look at them as being sort of the signing off. Yeah. Signing off of the whole Quran is revealed, and it's now signing off. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. There has now come to you. It's finished. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ. He has come to you. رَسُولٌ, a messenger from yourselves. عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ. He has been really, he really feels it that you should go astray. حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. He's really involved in wanting you to be guided. Yeah, with the believers, he was merciful, as God sent him to be Rahmat al-Alameen, Ra'ufur Rahim. That's done now. So and then it says, فَإِن تَوَلُّوا, if they turn away, O Muhammad, you say, حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ. You say, God is enough for me. I've done my job, basically. Yeah. So I would view it in that kind of way. Okay, they're not part of the Quran, but they're something which God revealed to the Prophet. Okay, in the same revelation. Okay, as sort of like the end. So I could accept it in that kind of way. I don't really have a problem with that, but it has to be shown that there is a code, and that it does exclude these two verses specifically. Okay, and they can't, and it's not excluding any other verses or any other one verse. Because what if you find the same? What if you could put the numbers in the same way? Okay, but now instead you remove another verse in the Quran.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what do you do? So. But these sort of things, you should always look into yourself, the numbers and these things. You'd count them yourself. I did that once with some people who were trying to sort of like knock some of the other numerical signs in the Quran, because there are numerical signs in the Quran. Some were trying to knock them out and saying, look, we found the signs in the sonnet of Shakespeare, right?
Yeah, I think.
So they count the number. They say we found this element in the sonnet of Shakespeare. Look, it has the same. If you count out the letters of this element, okay, it has the same atomic number as this element, etc. And because the sonnet is small, you can do that easily. I did that, and found that the numbers don't match. So
yeah, I also think that would have been a poor way to actually, as in to send a revelation. Like, I think that would have been why would God why would God, for example, do that for the Quran? That's why would he do it for the Quran? There were other revelations before, before.
Well, I personally think that the Quran is the only verbatim revelation. So
but
like the Torah.
What about the Alwah? There were
the Alwah, accepting the Alwah. Okay.
Not only were the Alwah verbatim, but they were written by according tradition, by the late God wrote them. So if even those can be lost to history, what about the Quran then? Which is,
but like I said, I wouldn't. There are numerical signs in the Quran. I'm just not convinced that the 19 is one of them. This person is asking, what's the main problem with the Quranic guides, with the traditional Islam? Well, it is that it's influenced by a lot of the early history, and it isn't even following what it claims to be following a lot of the time. It's a deep question. If you come on another time or check this channel, if you're listening, print to leaf, then just check some of the things in this channel. You'll find a lot. Let me just quickly go through any more things. Could it be that the dialect of Qur'an? I already answered that. Yeah, it could be. Let me see if there's anything else I want to get to. All right, if there's anybody listening now, I'm just going to go right to the end. If there's anybody listening still and there's something I haven't addressed and you're waiting for me to address it, please do type it now, or forever hold your peace. Or not forever, you can come next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a Print to Leaf is still here, and he's having a nice hearty discussion with our good old Iron Man. Iron Man has fired up his arc reactor. Some guy was saying Manhaj means bedrooms. Okay, non-body means bedrooms. What is new in Quranic scholarship? Talking about the academia. In the academia, there's quite a lot. It's always happening, to be honest. I would recommend following Marim van Putten on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm actually following him. He's very good.
Yeah, He's very good. In fact, I'm a patron for him on Twitter with a different account. I'm actually going with this account just to be more public in my support for him.
Do you think someday he would, if you could, we could get in touch with him? Maybe someday he could come on the channel. Just
yeah, maybe I'll invite him on. I mean, I'm thinking that once, like the intention for the stream was to do it weekly from Ramadan past. So we've been doing it every week for I don't know how many months it is now. Well, it's 42 weeks, right? It's 40. This is the 42nd one. So basically 10 more weeks, and we'll hit 1 year. And then after that, I'll sort of reevaluate things and maybe not do it. I think I'll continue with it, but it will be maybe once every 3 weeks or something like that, and make space for something else to try to have some other guests on or something like that. I don't know. I was actually scoping out a few other things. I actually wanted to have. I mean, it's become. There was a while I was thinking that the ex-Muslim sort of community had sort of matured a little bit. I saw some other voices which I thought okay, and I wanted to have rather than like this. I mean, even now, right? Yesterday, you know, they depressed me this yesterday thing with Ali Dawan and what's his name, apostate prophet, because they're just creating. They're as bad as each other, I think. To be honest, they feed off each other. You know. They help each other a lot, but there was someone who was giving a different vibe. It was much more respectful, and I was thinking of trying to have a kind of series where I could be on and him be on at the same time, and we take callers in that way, and just to show people that you can have a friendly conversation together, the ex-Muslims, and to create a different environment, different atmosphere. Have a Muslim and ex-Muslim together, where we take callers together, and you know we can answer the different things, and it can be. That's just what was in my mind. I was thinking of doing something like that, but I think it's the ex-Muslim community generally still hasn't. I think it has to go through another cycle of new people coming on before that can happen. The ones who are really good and will be down to like Hassan Radwan. He's retired.
He's also not bad actually.
He's retired.
He's also
Abdullah Samir as well. But I know again, I stopped watching him a while ago when a lot of things happened. So I haven't. But yeah, he was very very nice, and maybe I could do him. But we'll see. I'm thinking about other things. I also went to there's this channel called Dissecting the Qur'an, which is actually a Christian channel, and I saw a tweet about them that they're reading through the Qur'an, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, and they were inviting people to come on. So I went and looked into that, and just complete disappointment. It's just they're just basically, it's not dissecting the Qur'an. It should be called deliberately disrespecting the Qur'an or deliberately acting stupid with regards to it. So no to them. So if anybody knows somebody or some different collaboration or people who would like to come on the channel as an interview or something later on, I might do that. I'm thinking of actually having I'd like to get in contact with Milahan, Philosopher's Corner, because I watched her from when she was pre-niqabi, right, and when she was actually first reading the Quran. I was happy to see that. This was like years ago, and she read through the whole Quran online.
And
so
many
we might have
books. Yeah, she also read those too.
Yeah, she read a lot of stuff. And now she's seeing that the Dawah world and the Muslim world isn't quite as great as she might have thought.
I mean, she released the video here. I think it was today, maybe. When she was commenting on Ali Dawa's debacle yesterday, because
I shared that.
It's
I shared that. I put in, somebody's asking this question. I'll put in the name on the chat. It's Marine, I before J, Putin.
Yeah, Marine von Putin.
I know somebody was asking who should follow on Twitter. He's a very good person, and his account is connected to a lot of other people. So you see him tweeting and retweeting, and having dialogues with a lot of other people who would be good to follow if you're into looking at Quran manuscripts. The other one was Haytham Siddiqui, but he's no longer on Twitter. I think he deactivated his account or something. But he has a lot of excellent work that was done on the qira'at and the manuscripts and stuff.
What do you think of Shadi Nasser?
Not too. I don't know too much about him. I mean, I was surprised when the first time I saw something about him. I was surprised he was on the Islam Critiqued channel.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw him come on. I was like, okay, why is he coming on this channel rather than another channel? Because that channel is a very anti-Muslim channel. I remember actually when that channel first came out, and he just had a very few videos. It was all done with just slides. It was a long time ago. And then, so I watched a few of his early videos and I said, look, it's obvious it's just a hate, anti-Muslim, Christian anti-Muslim channel. It's one of those. But later his production value increased and I saw him coming up and, I said, you know what, your production value, I got to give you credit. You've upped your game a lot since when I saw him.
Interview he did with Shadi Nasser. Shadi Nasser is actually very respectable.
Yeah. No, he's academic. He does compose himself as an academic.
Exactly.
But it's very strange
why he would go.
Why he went on there. That's the first thing. But I haven't looked at his work. I know Farid did some video about him, right, where he was like exposing him. But that's normal for Farid, right?
Yeah.
That's normal for everybody. So I don't know. I haven't read his work. I would like to. But in the end, it doesn't concern me as much because I've already concluded pretty much 100% certainty that the Prophet did not recite the Quran in multiple ways. Okay, so what would be interesting for me would be to see the getting from how we got from Hafs to what we have in our Masahif now. So after Hafs, I'm very confident that Hafs's recitation was the closest to the Prophet's. What we have now in the Masahif, is it really Hafs's? Okay, what is the connection? I mean, Hafs didn't write his own Mus'haf, right? Didn't have like a thing. So what is the connection? How did they get from? Yeah, because it's all going to be narrations as well. Of course, everybody just surprise. It's going to be narrations, right? It's going to be Hafs's students, and then how that proliferated, and I'm sure there'll be differences between his students, right? Just like so maybe that's why some of the things in Hafs which I don't agree with are there. Anyway,
are there more comments or?
Yeah, I think I'll just stop there. Somebody commenting on that. Was Ibrahim or Ismail was described as Halim? Ibrahim was described as Halim. Ibrahim al-Halim al-Awwah al-Munib. Beautiful verse. That's Ibrahim it's when he was arguing, sort of arguing or pleading with God regarding the people of Lut. Right? The way it's mentioned, Ya Ibrahim a'rid an hadha.
It's interesting.
It's said in such a gentle way. Ibrahim, let this go, let this pass.
But then gives him a compliment at the end, even though Allah is trying to, let's say, like tell him don't stop, don't.
Just the way it sounds. So
also gives compliment.
Yeah, it's in such a gentle, amazing way.
Yeah.
And when I look at it and compare Nuh alayhi salam.
Oh,
no, لا تخاطبني.
Don't debate with me about this.
Yeah, don't
lecture me.
لا تسألني ما ليس لك به. Don't ask me what you have no knowledge of. That's why I think I've mentioned this. One of the first reflections I put here was that the thing which he didn't know, إنه عمل غير صالح, that his son was actually a illegitimate son. Okay, his son was a illegitimate son. Nuh's son, I think, was an illegitimate son. It's not his real son. Yeah, if you go back and check that stream, Lut's son, I think I called it. That's why. I
thought that maybe it was that verse when it says إنه عمل غير صالح, that Allah is saying that if he was not going to do that when Noah basically says that he was innahu min ahli. Then Allah says innahu laysa min ahlika innahu amalun ghayru salih.
Exactly that. Yeah.
For me, the way I understood it was that Allah is saying because that would be an act that is not righteous if Allah were to save him. That the innahu here is referencing to amal, that it would be an amal ghayru salih if Allah were to save Nuh's son. That's how I understood it.
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, have a look at that stream because I think we should close off now. But yeah, it's because it says, well, innahu, he is not from your ahl. Innahu, he is. So it's like a juxtaposed.
Yeah,
he's not from your family. Okay, what is he then? How can he not be from my family? Well, and he's not really your son. And it's put in
so it's not a product of something righteous, of an act that is righteous.
Yeah, basically, innahu, what is he? He is result of zina. Result of zina. Okay, so the Quran is never vulgar in that kind of way. Okay? So innahu amalun ghayru salih. He is what he is. He's an act. He's a result of an act which is not righteous.
Okay.
Amal ghayru salih is. That's what I think. And you have evidence for that. The khiyana that's mentioned with imra'at Lut and imra'at Nuh. Yeah. Khanatahuma. Anyway, I mentioned check that and have a look at that, and
but that actually makes sense. That reading, it makes sense
because
when you put the
it says, لا تسألني ما ليس لك به علم. You don't know. Allah knew, but Nuh didn't know, and that's also why I think he makes that dua in the end of Surah Nuh. He makes this dua even though everybody's already been drowned, right? Because everybody's so Allah, don't leave any of these things, right? And then he says, وَلِمَنْ دَخَلَ بَيْتِيَ مُؤْمِنًا, to whoever enters my home as a mu'min. Why? Because somebody entered his home without that faithfulness. Somebody came in. Yeah. So anyway, that's a different reflection. All right, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Rashid, for coming on. It's been excellent. It's been epic. Epic 3 hour, 16-minute stream. Okay, but it's been a good one. Jazakallah khair. And thank you everybody else for coming on. And inshallah, we'll see you again next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.